Chapter 895. There were grand magi of the Wu tribe howling in the starry sky. There were mighty figures of the demon tribe roaring and shattering the galaxy. There were also golden immortals of the great all-embracing heaven, and ghost immortals of the netherworld running side by side, making the vast outer space colorful. Rumble! The 8 heavenly gates opened in the vast starry sky, and 8 ancient starry sky roads opened up. Countless living beings were hurrying along the ancient starry sky roads, and everyone's face was filled with reverence and reverence. These 8 ancient astral paths led directly to the Earth Empress Palace. They were specially created by Saint Hutu to guide the various powers to the Earth Empress Palace, so that they could attend the heaven-mending banquet. The boundless heaven and earth shuttled through the starry sky. Yi Xian was dressed in black, and his jet-black hair hung behind his head. He strolled through the starry sky, and with every step he took, the stars around him flickered, faintly showing signs of stagnation. So close yet worlds apart, this was a technique only saints could use. Yi Xian displayed this technique to the fullest, but he didn't follow the path to Earth Empress Palace like ordinary people. In Yi Xian's eyes, these ancient astral paths were nothing more than a joke. They were also a trick used by Hutu to mystify things. Saint-level cultivators had to show their power and prestige to make all living creatures below the level of saint respect them. Hutu had just become a saint, and these 8 ancient paths were the means of a saint. She made all living creatures on each ancient path respect her from the bottom of their hearts. Yi Xian naturally didn't care about this trick of hers. He only sensed Huta's aura for a brief moment before crossing the spatial barrier and continuously moving towards Earth Empress Palace. The starry sky churned and vast astral winds howled. In just half an incense stick's time, a dazzling star appeared before Yi Xian's eyes. The planet was earthy yellow in color. Waves of heavenly path saintly might emanated from it. A vast palace stood on the planet. 8 ancient paths of starry sky connected the vast planet. Countless figures were moving forward on the ancient paths of starry sky. They were heading towards the Empress Palace. Hutu Palace. It was a dazzling sight. Sacred light filled the air as sacred runes intertwined in the starry sky. The bronze door was simple and heavy, exuding an ancient aura. At this moment, the front of the Earth Empress Palace was packed with figures. The ones at the front had terrifying auras. They were the leaders of the various orthodoxies. In the ancient demon court, the 2 demon emperors were Donghuangtai and Dijun. At this moment, they were standing in front of the Empress Earth Palace with thousands of demons behind them. The immortal Wang of the South Pole was the leader of the Chan sect. The immortal Wang of the South Pole had not been seen for tens of thousands of years and had already become a quasi-saint. At this moment, he was leading the immortals of the Chan sect and patiently waiting for the opening of the Empress Palace. The Emperor of Feng, Du led the Yama Kings of the 10 palaces here in the underworld. It was clear that he had the Book of Life and Death, which allowed him to survive Yi Xian's attack. Since he was the ruler of the underworld in name, the Skymender festival naturally had to be held here. The most eye-catching one was the Sorcerer tribe. Earth Empress was the sage of the Sorcerer tribe. The Skymender festival was definitely a big event for the Sorcerer tribe. A few ancestral sorcerers stood in front, followed by many ancient sorcerers and grand sorcerers. Everyone looked proud. Humph, how dare a small demon tribe meet our sage? Ancestral sorcerer Xian Ming sneered, and looked at Donghuang Tai from the corner of his eyes. His words were full of sarcasm. Xian Ming, do you want to fight with me? Dijun was the most hot-tempered. He looked at ancestral sorcerer Xian Ming with a cold expression. A terrifying demonic light was rising from his eyes. Obviously he was furious. Second brother, don't be rude to ancestral sorcerer Xian Ming. Donghuang Tai frowned and scolded Dijun before he could do anything. Big brother. Dijun's expression changed and then turned bitter. He let out a long sigh and did not speak. Obviously, he knew the situation of the demon tribe at this moment. Donghuang Tai is indeed the demon emperor. You are not as good as him. Ancestral sorcerer Xian Ming sneered, and did not look at the 2 demon emperors. Damn it! Being despised by ancestral sorcerer Xian Ming, Dijun's eyes flashed fiercely. He wanted to tear ancestral sorcerer Xian Ming apart. But when he saw Dong Huangtai's warning eyes, he tried his best to endure. Second brother, now the Wu tribe is powerful. We ancient demon court are no match for them. What's more, Huda has become a sage. You and I can only endure. Don't give the Wu tribe a chance to attack us. Dong Huangtai secretly transmitted a message to Dijun, hoping to understand his difficulties. Big brother, Nuwa is heartless. She is a member of the demon tribe. Otherwise, how can we be suppressed by the Wu tribe? Dijun said indignantly. You should have known that Nuwa is heartless. But you and I are the two demon emperors. We must think for the demon tribe. We must not break the inheritance of the demon tribe. Dong Huangtai sighed. But will we always be bullied by the Wu tribe? Dijun asked in a trembling voice. Hudu has become a sage, and the Wu tribe has risen. We demon tribe have no power to reverse the situation. At worst, we ancient demon court will hide again, and live in seclusion in the worldlet. But the billions of weak demon tribe in the three realms will be enslaved by the Wu tribe in the future. Dong Huangtai sighed in despair. Since Huda became a sage, Dong Huangtai knew that the demon tribe had reached a dead end. There was no hope for them, unless another sage appeared in the demon tribe. Only then could they compete with the Wu tribe. Unfortunately, there were only 7 sages in the world. There was no sage in the demon tribe. Although Dong Huangtai had the Bell of Chaos, he was no match for the Huta sage of the Wu tribe. Big brother, do you think Yi Xian is alive or dead? Suddenly, Dijun secretly transmitted a message. Hearing Dijun's words, Dong Huangtai was stunned. Yi Xian's voice and face flashed across his mind. He also remembered his arrogance and fearlessness in the past. Dong Huangtai smiled bitterly and sighed softly. I had always thought that he was the 7th sage. Unfortunately, it was Huta who became a sage in the end. Even if he is still alive in this world, with the 7 sages here, he no longer has a chance. What's the point of mentioning him? Big brother, I always have a feeling that Yi Xian will never disappear. He will definitely appear again. Dijun's voice trembled slightly. So what if he appears again? Everyone below the saint level is an ant. It's not like you don't understand this principle. Furthermore, he is an enemy of the ancient demon court. Although I admire him, we are ultimately from 2 different worlds, Dong Huangtai said bitterly. The 2 demon emperors were no longer as arrogant as before. Instead, they looked depressed. All the forces kept a distance from the 2 demon emperors and smiled kindly at the ancestors of the Wu tribe. Chapter 896. There was no trace of Dharma in heaven and earth. Yi Xian quietly appeared behind the 2 demon emperors, and the 2 of them didn't notice at all. What the 2 demon emperors didn't know was that Yi Xian had completely heard their conversation, which caused Yi Xian to look at the 2 of them with a strange expression. Rumble. Suddenly, the Huda palace shone, and the bronze stone door opened with a rumble. 2 members of the shaman tribe walked out of the door, then cupped their hands and bowed to the various forces. Goddess Hutu invites everyone into the palace for a chat. As they spoke, the 2 sorcerer tribesmen opened up a path for the various orthodoxies to enter. As the palace door closed with a rumble, the crowd disappeared from the outside world. Inside the Earth Empress Palace, life and death esoteric rotated as the heavenly Tao's sacred light filled the air. Yi Xian followed behind the 2 shifter emperors without being noticed by anyone. However, when Yi Xian saw Earth Empress sitting in front of him, an unfathomable look flashed across his eyes. Greetings, Heavenly Tao Saint. Greetings, Goddess Earth Empress. Earth Empress sat in the sacred light of reincarnation as wisps of sacred aura filled the air around her, giving off an extremely oppressive feeling. Everyone who had just entered the palace knelt down to pay their respects to Earth Empress. How dare you? Why aren't you bowing down to her? Suddenly, the boy and girl beside Earth Empress scolded. Everyone was shocked as they looked towards the source of the voice. Only then did they realize that the 2 shifter emperors only bowed and did not kneel down to Earth Empress. Goddess Earth Empress, both of us were born by heaven and earth. We're the emperors of the shifter tribe. Although we're not saints, we're the rulers of our tribe. We only bow to the heavenly Tao. Please forgive us, goddess. Dong Huangtai bowed to Earth Empress. Dong Huangtai. Earth Empress sat in the sacred light of reincarnation, After 30,000 years, her saint heart had stabilized. Her saint cultivation base was also perfect and flawless. She had the demeanor of a heavenly Tao saint. The holy will is the will of the heavens, and the holy heart is the will of the heavens. Although I am not like teacher Hongjun, I am a heavenly Tao saint, and can act on behalf of the heavens. Are you demons looking down on me? Huda suddenly opened her eyes, and the light of reincarnation spread out from her eyes. Terrifying saintly might covered Donghuang Tai and Dijun Ta. Although Donghuang Tai and Dijun were at the pinnacle of sage to be, they were still forced to take 3 steps back by the pressure of a saint. Hutu, don't push me too far. Emperor Jun roared at Hutu, his eyes as red as blood. How dare you call me by my name? Huda's face turned cold. As she flicked her sleeve, the samsara light whizzed out and suppressed Emperor Jun. Emperor Jun spat out blood and fell to the ground. Empress Hutu, please forgive him. My second brother has a strong temperament. He didn't mean to disrespect you. I apologize to you on his behalf. Donghuang Tai instantly stood in front of Emperor Jun, fearing that Hutu would kill Emperor Jun. During the Great War of Witch Demon Tribe, Donghuang Tai and Emperor Jun had severely injured Hutu. It was also during that Great War of Witch Demon Tribe that Hutu escaped to the netherworld and became Mengpa. Donghuang Tai did not forget this. This was also the reason why Donghuang Tai had been tolerating the Wu tribe. He was afraid that Hutu would not only kill him and Emperor Jun, but also implicate the entire demon tribe. You should die for disrespecting me. Earth Empress got up slowly, and the samsara light bloomed around her. Although she had become a saint, she had never forgotten that the 2 demon emperors had injured her. At this moment, she looked at the 2 demon emperors with intense killing intent. Interesting. Yi Xian was hidden in the void as he indifferently looked at Hutu. The corners of his mouth curled into a strange smile. It was unknown what he was thinking. Empress Hutu, you're a heavenly path saint. If you want to kill the 2 demon emperors, aren't you afraid that the billions of demon tribe will riot? Donghuang Tai growled. Are you threatening me? Earth Empress was suffocating. The heavenly path saint's aura became more terrifying, making the 2 demon emperors breathless. I wouldn't dare. Although the demon tribe is weak, we're still a large tribe under the heavenly path. Empress Hutu, you have a benevolent heart and can't bear to cause chaos in the 3 realms. Please be magnanimous and don't lower yourself to our level. Bang! Donghuang Tai bent his knees and knelt down. He even kowtowed 3 times to Earth Empress Hutu. Brother! Seeing Donghuang Tai kneeling down to Earth Empress Hutu to save his own life, Emperor Jun's eyes turned red. He looked at Earth Empress Hutu with hatred. Brother, why don't you apologize to Empress Hutu? Donghuang Tai scolded angrily. He was afraid that Emperor Jun would give Earth Empress an excuse to attack again. Brother, you? Apologize. Apologize to the saint, or I'll kill you myself. Donghuang Tai roared. Tears flowed from his eyes. Emperor Jun clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Emperor Jun was rude to Earth Saint Empress Hutu. Emperor Jun said word by word. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth. His eyes looked like they were about to explode, which showed how humiliated he was. Emperor Jun did not feel humiliated for himself. He felt humiliated for Donghuang. His brother had knelt down to the saint of the sorcerer tribe for the sake of the demon tribe. He was in so much pain that he wanted to cry out loud. The 2 demon monarchs were oppressed by Empress Hutu, which made the orthodoxies sigh. The ancestors of sorcerers sneered with complacency on their faces. The 2 demon monarchs, who had been regarded as enemies by the sorcerer tribe, were now kneeling in front of them. This scene made the sorcerer tribe feel extremely comfortable. Humph, you can avoid death, but you can't escape punishment. Empress Huda sat cross-legged again, but the reincarnation light was still oppressing the 2 demon monarchs. It seemed that she could end their lives with just a thought. I heard that you, Donghuang Tai, have a sacred treasure called the Bell of Chaos. It's a primordial treasure. Why don't you use it to forgive your disrespect to the saint? Ancestor sorcerer Xian Ming walked out and sneered. You're dreaming. Hearing the words of ancestor sorcerer Xian Ming, Emperor Jun's face changed greatly. His heart was filled with rage. He roared at ancestor sorcerer Xian Ming, and suddenly looked at Hutu with a touch of sadness in his eyes. He understood. He understood everything. Today, Empress Huta summoned them because she wanted to seize the Bell of Chaos in his brother's hands. This was Empress Huta's real purpose. Primordial treasures were extremely rare in this world, but each of them contained the power to destroy heaven and earth. In the hands of a saint, they could erupt with terrifying power. For example, Yuanshi Tianzuan's Panga Banner, Tongtian's Immortal Slaying Sword Formation, and Kundi's Tree of Seven Wonders. Empress Hutu had just become a saint 30,000 years ago. Although she had mastered the reincarnation strength, she did not have a primordial treasure. Therefore, Dong Huangtai's Bell of Chaos was naturally targeted by her. Chapter 897. Not to mention that sages were superior and disdained other people's things. However, sages' cultivation was far superior to all living creatures. There were very few things that could catch the sage's eyes. However, the Bell of Chaos was not one of them. Naturally, Huta wanted it for herself. The Bell of Chaos was a primordial treasure and could be called a divine weapon of chaos. It was even more terrifying than the Panga Banner in Yuanshi Tianzuan's hand. Naturally, Huta coveted it. At this moment, Huta's samsara sacred light covered her body, making it impossible to see her expression. However, the Heavenly Way's sacred aura still shrouded the two demon emperors. Obviously, she was determined to get the Bell of Chaos. Okay, I'm willing to hand over the Bell of Chaos. I only hope that Empress Hutu will not make things difficult for us. Dong Huangtai smiled sadly. At this point, the so-called resistance would be like throwing an egg at a rock. It would only give Hutu an excuse to kill the two of them. Clang! A bell rang in Dong Huangtai's body. The invincible golden light spread out, and a 3-inch bell of chaos floated out of Dong Huangtai's sea of consciousness. Brother, don't. The bell of chaos is connected to your blood. If you really give it to her, you will be in danger of dying. Emperor Jun roared miserably. He wanted to stop Dong Huangtai, but he was suppressed by the Heavenly Way's sacred aura, and could not even lift a finger. Brother, we have no hope. Since she wants the Bell of Chaos, I'll give it to her. Dong Huangtai smiled sadly. He made a gesture with both hands and pointed at the Bell of Chaos, cutting off the connection between him and the Bell of Chaos. Puff! Dong Huangtai spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale, and he fainted on the ground. The Bell of Chaos turned into a golden light and fell into Huta's hand. Brother! Emperor Jun roared miserably. The Heavenly Way's sacred aura that suppressed him had dissipated. This made him fall in front of Dong Huangtai with tears in his eyes. Good. Today's matter will never be forgotten by the monster race. Emperor Jun roared. He abruptly picked up Dong Huangtai's body and strode out of the Huta palace. Hutu had the Bell of Chaos, so he didn't bother to trouble the two of them. The two dignified demon emperors had ended up in such a state. It could be said that they were extremely miserable and made people sigh. However, the various forces also understood one thing at this moment. The will of the saint could not be violated. The Magi had really risen, and the demons had become a thing of the past. The so-called ancient demon court no longer had the dignity of the past. The Lady of Earth alone could suppress the demons. The Heaven-Mending Conference concerns the safety of the three realms. All of you are the pillars of the three realms. I have already invited the other saints to gather at the Earth Empress Palace. 80 years later, we will discuss the method of mending the heavens together. In the Hotu Palace, Hotu's majestic voice was heard. The various factions were listening to Hotu's teachings. No one cared about the whereabouts of the two demonic emperors, much less the fate of Dong Huangtai. Outside the Earth Palace, Emperor Jun's mouth was bleeding. He carried the unconscious Dong Huangtai and shuttled through the starry sky. Thousands of demons followed him, but a heavy and sorrowful aura permeated from them. Your Majesty, you can't go any further. His Majesty Donghuang's aura is getting weaker and weaker. If you don't save him, I'm afraid he will, Fengbo reminded him in a trembling voice. Emperor Jun's escape light suddenly stopped, and a sorrowful voice came from his mouth. Hutu Magi, you all deserve to die. Quick, set up the cosmic stars formation, and gather the power of thousands of stars for my brother. You must save his life. Emperor Jun's eyes were bloodshot. He directly landed on a withered star. The thousands of demons behind him did not dare to neglect, and immediately set up the cosmic stars formation. Emperor Jun hurriedly placed Dong Huangtai in the center. He was extremely anxious, and looked at Dong Huangtai with great guilt in his eyes. "Brother, you can't die." Emperor Jun roared in grief. Cosmic stars formation condense. Thousands of demons cast demon characters all over the sky. The surrounding stars suddenly brightened, and wisps of starlight gathered. Emperor Jun performed the great skill of the demon clan, and injected all the gathered starlight into Dong Huangtai's body. He looked at Dong Huangtai anxiously, hoping that his brother would wake up. Puff! Suddenly, Dong Huangtai spat out a mouthful of essence blood. His body cracked like a spider web. Emperor Jun's face turned pale instantly. He looked at Fengbua and roared furiously. "How could this be? Your Majesty, the cosmic stars formation requires the cooperation of thousands of demons from antiquity times. But we only have thousands of people. I'm afraid His Majesty Dong Huang." Fengbua choked with sobs, his face full of despair. "How dare you curse my brother to die?" Emperor Jun had already gone mad. He suddenly grabbed Fengbua's neck and lifted him up. "I don't care what you do. You must save my brother. Otherwise, I will bury you with him." Emperor Jun roared crazily, showing signs of qigong deviation. "How stupid you are." Suddenly, an indifferent voice reverberated in the void. It was the voice that woke Emperor Jun up. "Who is it? Come out." Emperor Jun looked around the starry sky, trying to find the owner of the voice. At this moment, a black light grew beside Dong Huangtai, and a calm figure appeared. His pneuma has dissipated, and his genuine spirit has withered. In order to save your life, Dong Huangtai cut off his connection with the Bell of Chaos. Now he is like a lamp that has run out of oil. It won't be long before his soul disperses and he dies. The man in black had his back to Emperor Jun. He was looking at Dong Huangtai with his eyebrows lowered. His voice was calm. "Who are you?" Emperor Jun's expression changed greatly. He had not sensed the man's presence at all, which set off a storm in his mind. "What do you want?" Before Emperor Jun could see the man's face clearly, he stretched out his hand toward Dong Huangtai. Emperor Jun's expression changed greatly. Boundless demon light burst out from his body, and he attacked the man with his palm. Bang! Light flowed between heaven and earth as the Dharma collapsed. Emperor Jun only felt his vision blur, as an extremely terrifying force suddenly pressed down on his body, directly annihilating his grand art, without leaving a trace. His entire body fell heavily to the ground. "Noisy!" Yi Xian frowned, and finally turned around to look at Emperor Jun. When Emperor Jun saw Yi Xian's face, he was stunned. Even his soul seemed to have frozen. He could not believe his eyes. It's you?" After 3 breaths, Emperor Jun cried out in horror. He had never expected that a man whose life was unknown would appear in front of him. "Yi Xian, it's Yi Xian!" Fengbo trembled and screamed. Thousands of grand demons changed their expressions, and instantly surrounded Yi Xian. However, everyone looked at Yi Xian with extreme fear. Chapter 898. Yi Tiandi. "Let's talk it out. Don't kill His Majesty," Yubo said in a trembling voice. Yubo trembled as he spoke. It was all because Yi Xian's fingers were on top of the Eastern Emperor Tai Yi's head. Strands of black mist revolved around Yi Xian's palm, causing people to feel extremely terrified. "Yi Xian, let my brother go. If you want to take revenge, you can do whatever you want to me." Dijun finally woke up from his shock. He walked towards Yi Xian with large strides as he let out a cry of despair. In the past, the battle between the 2 heavenly courts had caused the heavens to collapse and the earth to crack. It had also caused the 2 heavenly courts to suffer great losses. Now that Yi Xian had appeared in front of the 2 of them, how could he possibly let the 2 brothers off? Emperor Jun had calmed down. He only hoped that Yi Xian would let Dong Huang go, even if he would die in the hands of Yi Xian. "Let my brother go." 108 demonic lights soared into the sky, as Dijun sublimated to the extreme. His body violently swelled as demonic lights filled the sky. It was obvious that he already had the intention to fight Yi Xian to the death. Second brother. Stop. Suddenly, an extremely weak voice sounded out. When this voice sounded out, Dijun was stunned on the spot. The 108 demonic lights behind him instantly became unstable, and the thousands of greater demons surrounding Yi Xian were about to cry out in alarm. His Majesty, brother? An extremely strange scene appeared. Dong Huangtai slowly opened his eyes. It was obvious that the words just now came from his mouth. At this moment, his entire body was wrapped in black mist, and Yi Xian's palm was still pressed against his head. Yi Tiandi is saving my life. Stop! Dong Huangtai scolded in a hoarse voice. What? As soon as Dong Huangtai finished speaking, Dijun cried out in surprise. However, he quickly withdrew his cultivation and looked at Yi Xian with an expression of disbelief. Emperor Jun had never expected that Yi Xian would not only not attack him and his brother, but also save Dong Huangtai's life. He could not believe it. Although Emperor Jun could not believe such a ridiculous thing, Dong Huangtai had said it himself. Moreover, Yi Xian did not hurt his brother. This made Emperor Jun secretly relieved. However, he was still vigilant against Yi Xian. He was afraid that Yi Xian was up to something. Time slowly passed. After a full hour, Yi Xian finally withdrew his palm from Dong Huangtai's head. Dong Huangtai's originally pale and bloodless face had also turned rosy. Thank you, Yi Tiandi, for saving my life. Dong Huangtai bowed to Yi Xian with a complicated expression. Apparently, he did not understand why Yi Xian had saved his life. The Bell of Chaos is connected to your bloodline. Losing the Bell of Chaos is equivalent to cutting off your origin of the Great Way. Although I have stabilized the origin of the Great Way for you, it is only a temporary solution. If you can't get the Bell of Chaos back, you can only live for 10,000 years at most, Yi Xian said calmly. To be able to live for 10,000 years, Dong Huang is already satisfied. Many thanks to Celestial Emperor Yi for your help. Dong Huangtai smiled bitterly. No one knew how serious his injury was. Fortunately, Yi Xian had saved him. Otherwise, he would have died without the Bell of Chaos. 10,000 years? Emperor Jun strode over, his face extremely pale. When he heard the conversation between the two, it was a terrible nightmare for him. No, it was not only terrible nightmare for him, but also for the entire ancient demon court and the millions of demon tribes in the three realms. Brother, Emperor Jun said with a trembling voice. He clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were red. If he had not been reckless and impulsive, how could Hudu have used this as an excuse to make Dong Huangtai lose the Bell of Chaos and end up like this? Self-blame, remorse, unwillingness, and monstrous indignation. All kinds of complicated feelings grew in Emperor Jun's heart. Looking at Dong Huangtai's weak aura, Emperor Jun's body and mind trembled. A great sense of guilt gnawed at his mind, making him almost speechless. Dong Huangtai could feel Emperor Jun's guilty mood, which made him smile and say, "Second brother, don't blame yourself. Hutu invited us in today. She didn't intend to let us go at all. Even without you, she would have found other reasons to take my Bell of Chaos. Hutu, that bitch, I will tear her into pieces sooner or later." Emperor Jun roared loudly, his eyes as red as blood and flashing with intense hatred. Ha! Suddenly, a contemptuous sneer came from Yi Xian. Tear her into pieces? You are really arrogant. Hudu has become a saint, and the Wu tribe has taken advantage of the situation to rise. Not to mention that you can only tie with the ancestor of sorcery. Even the millions of demon tribes behind you will be suppressed by the Wu tribe. You still want to tear Hutu into pieces? Are you daydreaming? Yi Xian knew. Being ridiculed by Yi Xian, Emperor Jun blushed. He wanted to refute, but he could not find an excuse to refute Yi Xian, because what Yi Xian said was true. How could he fight with Hutu? Two demon emperors, one is reckless and ignorant, and the other is about to die. The millions of demon tribes behind you are really pitiful. Yi Xian shook his head indifferently. At this moment, Dong Huangtai looked bitter. As Yi Xian said, the demon tribe had declined and was no longer as prosperous as before. Even if he still had the Bell of Chaos, how could he be qualified to fight with the Wu tribe? Hutu alone had already suppressed the demon tribe, not to mention that the Wu tribe was not weaker than the demon tribe. In the current situation, The demon tribe had no power to resist at all. Humph, it's all Nua's fault. She is a member of the demon tribe, but she watched us being oppressed by the Wu tribe indifferently. If she had been as kind as Hutu, how could we have ended up like this? Emperor Jun said to himself with hatred. Second brother, be quiet. Dong Huangtai's face darkened at the mention of Nua's coldness. However, Nua was a saint after all, and they could not afford to be disrespectful to her. This made Dong Huangtai scold Emperor Jun. You two take care of yourselves. Suddenly, Yi Xian said softly. He glanced at the two demon emperors indifferently, and then stepped into the distant starry sky. Yi Xian's sudden departure caused the two demon emperors to be stunned. They didn't recover from their shock for a full 3 breaths of time, and when Yi Xian disappeared into the distance, the two demon emperors suddenly woke up. Elder brother, Yi Xian not only survived, but also appeared to save your life. What does he want to do? Emperor Jun murmured in surprise. Dong Huangtai's mind was blown when he heard Emperor Jun's words. He seemed to have thought of something at this moment. Chapter 899. The Origin of the Great Way. Did he just help me stabilize the origin of the Great Way? Dong Huangtai abruptly asked Dijuan, as if he had encountered something that shocked him to the core. Looking at Dong Huangtai's terrified expression, Dijuan's face froze for a moment before he nodded and said, That's right. Big Brother almost died just now. This Yi Xian did save Big Brother's life. Emperor Jun paused, and his expression suddenly changed, as if he had discovered something extremely shocking at this moment. The origin of the Great Way. He stabilized your origin of the Great Way. So he saved my brother's life? Emperor Jun trembled, and his eyes widened in horror. Apparently, he had also discovered something extremely terrible. Did he become a sage? Dong Huangtai whispered in horror. He fell into a trance, and could not believe the truth he had discovered. The bell of primal chaos was his life and death treasure, and it could be said that it depended on him in life and death. It was also related to the source of the Eastern Emperor Tai Yi's great Tao. After losing the bell of primal chaos, the source of his great Tao had shattered, and it was already a situation of certain death. The most important thing was that to restore the origin of the Great Way, one must have the cultivation of a sage. Only a sage could touch the true meaning of the origin of the Great Way, and could restore the origin of the Great Way with supreme Dharma power. Until now, Dong Huangtai had discovered this terrible fact, which made him muddle-headed and silent. His body and mind were trembling, and he could not believe what he had guessed. Impossible. Suddenly, Emperor Jun growled in horror. This is impossible. Huda has already become a sage, and the 7 sages in the world have all been occupied. How could Yi Xian become a sage? There were only 7 sages in the world, except for Tao ancestor Hong Jun, who had integrated with the Tao. Now that the 7 sages had all appeared, it was impossible for a sage to be born in the world. This was an ironclad fact, and it was also known to all. Emperor Jun naturally could not believe that Yi Xian had become a sage. No, there is a problem, absolutely a problem. Do you remember how Huta became a sage? Dong Huangtai's face changed dramatically, and his eyes were faintly shining. His voice was trembling violently. The primordial violet vapor. It was Yi Xian who gave it to her. This was because everyone knew about it. Otherwise, Huda wouldn't have fought with Nuwa for Yi Xian in the underworld 30,000 years ago. Second brother, don't you have any questions? Why did Yi Xian give the primordial violet chi to Hutu? Wouldn't it be better for him to keep the primordial violet chi for himself? It's definitely not that simple. Dong Huangtai was indeed worthy of being the leader of the demonic clan. Just from what he had encountered today, and connecting it to the secrets of the past, he came to an unbelievable conclusion. Yi Xian might have achieved the Tao through an alternative method. Dong Huangtai was resolute and decisive. Even he did not dare to believe this fact. However, based on all his deductions, he still said this sentence. How is that possible? Emperor Jun screamed in horror. He could not believe this fact. Second brother, you should know that Nuwa and Yuanshi have always wanted to kill him. The 2 sages of the West also want to kill Yi Xian. The Heaven Mending Festival is about to begin, but Yi Xian dares to appear here. If he has not become a sage, how could he dare to come here? Dong Huangtai quickly deduced, his voice becoming more and more certain. A sage? Yi Xian has really become a sage? How did he break the iron law of the 7 sages of heaven and earth to become a sage? Emperor Jun murmured, his body and mind trembling to the extreme. Brother, even if you are right, Yi Xian's becoming a sage is of no use to us demonic clan. Don't forget that we have a grudge against him after the battle between the 2 celestial court. Moreover, he has a great friendship with Hutu. Yi Xian's becoming a sage is of no use to us demonic clan. Emperor Jun finally calmed down and let out a long sigh of despair. Idiot! Dong Huangtai suddenly scolded. His eyes were shining at this moment. He looked in the direction where Yi Xian had gone, a touch of madness and excitement flashing across his eyes. There are only eternal interests in the world. How can there be eternal enemies? Today Yi Xian's appearance to save my life is the best proof. Obviously, his friendship with Hutu is not as deep as we thought. And don't forget that Nuwa ignored the friendship between us demonic clan for her own interests. She allowed Hutu to lead the Wu tribe to bully us demonic clan. Nuwa simply regarded us as ants. She has never cared about the friendship between us demonic clan. Dong Huangtai roared crazily. His eyes became brighter, as if he had made a decision. At this moment he finally made up his mind. Looking at Dong Huangtai's crazy appearance, Emperor Jun asked anxiously, Brother, what are you trying to say? Second brother. Dong Huangtai looked at Emperor Jun with his bright eyes and said in an unusually cold and low voice, Since Nuwa is heartless first, don't blame us for being heartless later. Since Yi Xian dares to appear outside the 33rd heaven, it is obvious that he wants to settle the score with Nuwa. Why don't we help Yi Xian? Brother, are you crazy? Hearing Dong Huangtai's words, Emperor Jun's face turned pale instantly. He looked at Dong Huangtai, as if he was looking at a madman. I'm crazy indeed. But second brother, tell me, if we give up this chance, the demon clan will never rise again. Do you want to watch billions of demon clansmen be enslaved and oppressed by the shaman clan with your own eyes? Do you want to watch Huda step on our heads and do whatever she wants? Dong Huangtai roared crazily, as if he had gone mad. But you have to know, even if Yi Xian is really an alternative, he is only one person. Yuanshi, Nuwa, and the 2 sages of the West are 4 sages. If we stand with him, won't we offend the 4 sages completely? Won't our demonic clan be doomed? Emperor Jun said with a trembling voice. Second brother, there is no such thing as having the best of both worlds. If you and I don't make a decision today, our demonic clan will definitely fall in the future. Only by giving it our all can we fight for a Tongtian road for our demonic clan. This is a gamble. If we succeed, our demon race will have a boundless future. If we fail, our demon race will sink into oblivion. But if we don't take this gamble today, I'm afraid our demon race will never have another chance. We will only gradually decline. Dong Huangtai's eyes were red as he roared. Clearly, he had already made his decision. But brother, even if you and I are willing to ally with Yi Xian, the 2 celestial courts used to have a deep grudge. What can Yi Xian do? Before Emperor Jun finished, Dong Huangtai suddenly interrupted and said in a low voice, You are wrong. It is not an alliance, but a merger of the 2 celestial courts. From now on, they will become one. And this new celestial court will only have one celestial emperor, and that is Yi Tiandi. What? Emperor Jun looked at Dong Huangtai in shock. He was so shocked that he could not say a word. Chapter 900. The combination of the 2 celestial courts? From now on, there will only be one celestial court in the world? Emperor Jun muttered to himself, trembling both physically and mentally. He looked at Dong Huangtai in confusion. Big brother, you've really gone mad. You've really gone mad. Emperor Jun roared, pressing his palms on Dong Huangtai's shoulders and shaking them vigorously. His face was extremely red. Yi Xian is a human. Do you know that if you and I lead hundreds of millions of demons to surrender to him, not only will you lose your throne and become his minister, but our demon tribe will also be ruled by him. Emperor Jun roared again and again, unable to accept Dong Huangtai's decision. Clap. Suddenly, a loud slap sounded. Emperor Jun stopped roaring. He covered his face and looked at Dong Huangtai with tears in his eyes. He was stunned. "Wake up, brother," Dong Huangtai said coldly. "Come and take a look. Take a good look at this." Dong Huangtai made a gesture with his hands and condensed a water screen image. There were many scenes in the water screen image, all of which were scenes of the sorcerer tribe slaughtering the demon tribe. "Take a good look. Take a good look at how our demon tribe is being humiliated." Dong Huangtai pointed at the water screen image. A large number of demons were being slaughtered by the sorcerer tribe, and a large number of demons became the sorcerer tribe's mounts. The sorcerer tribe's wild laughter was extremely harsh. At this time, Emperor Jun stared blankly at the water screen image. His eyes were as red as blood, and his fists were clenched so tightly that his knuckles cracked. The demon tribe was suffering great humiliation in the water screen image, and no one knew how many demons had been killed by the sorcerer tribe. Do you see it? The rise of the sorcerer tribe, and the decline of the demon tribe. Our people are being bullied. The sorcerer tribe keeps our people like livestock. This is the current situation of our demon tribe. Do you want us to become slaves of the sorcerer tribe before you wake up? Dong Huangtai scolded coldly, hoping that Emperor Jun would understand the situation of the demon tribe. But big brother. But before he could finish, Dong Huangtai waved his hand and interrupted. "I know what you want to say. You think Yi Xian is from the human tribe. If he becomes the leader of the demon tribe, will he enslave us? But second brother, have you thought about it? Half of the people in the celestial court are demons. Why are they willing to follow Yi Xian, even if they are called traitors to the demon race?" Dong Huangtai let out a long sigh. Emperor Jun was speechless and did not say anything in the end. Yes, just as Dong Huangtai had said. Why did those demon kings follow Yi Xian? Even when Yi Xian was being hunted down by a saint, they did not leave him. This was because Yi Xian had truly treated them as his own people. He had never really enslaved them. Instead, he had led them on expeditions against their enemies and built a home that belonged to them. Kuenping used to be the master of demons, but he had betrayed the ancient demon court and had been following Yi Xian. Was Kuenping stupid? No, Kuenping was very smart, because he could see that Yi Xian was a wise master who would lead him to the peak. He could really unify the three realms and make all beings submit to him. In this world, aside from the saints, who can truly be called the overlord of the world? I believe it's only Yi Tiandi, Dong Huangtai said with certainty. Big brother, I understand. Emperor Jun bowed. He finally understood Dong Huangtai's idea. Let's go. Yi Tiandi must not have gone far. Let's go find him quickly. Since he'd already made his decision, the Eastern Emperor Tai didn't hesitate at all. He directly called for Di Jun and the 1,000 greater demons to chase after Yi Xian. The star sea was turbulent, and the big stars were rotating. Yi Xian strolled leisurely in the starry sky, but his pace was very slow. He did not use the imminent skyline, as if he was waiting for someone to catch up with him. What kind of person was Yi Xian? He would do anything to achieve his goal. He was insidious and cruel. He would never show any mercy. Logically speaking, Dong Huangtai and Emperor Jun were his enemies, not his friends. Hutu had taken Dong Huangtai's Bell of Chaos, which had nothing to do with him. However, Yi Xian had saved Dong Huangtai's life. Yi Xian was not so benevolent. He had saved Dong Huangtai for two reasons. The first reason, in the battle of the Celestial Court, the two demon emperors had killed each other. In the end, Niwa had almost killed Yi Xian. The two demon emperors had deliberately exposed their flaws and made way for Yi Xian to escape. Yi Xian had always remembered this favor. The second reason was also the most important one. He had saved Dong Huangtai today because he wanted to subdue the ancient demon court and make the billions of demons in the three realms work for him. The demons. This was the largest race in the three realms apart from the human race. It was said that there were hundreds of millions of them. It was definitely a force that could not be ignored. The ancient demon court was the holy land in the hearts of billions of demons, and the two demon emperors were the faith of billions of demons. If he could subdue these two demon emperors for his use, it would be equivalent to him, Yi Xian, controlling the entire demon race. Perhaps some people would ask, Yi Xian was already comparable to a saint. If he wanted to subdue the demons, wouldn't it be easier to kill the 2 demon emperors and destroy the ancient demon court? Wrong, very wrong. Yi Xian could indeed destroy the ancient demon court, but he could not subdue billions of demons. This had nothing to do with cultivation or strength, but with faith. When the world was first created and all living things were born, the 2 demon emperors were the commanders of billions of demons. All the demons viewed the 2 demon emperors as their faith. Even if Yi Xian killed the 2 of them, it would only incite the hatred of billions of demons. This was definitely not an outcome that Yi Xian wanted to see. Of course, Yi Xian was not afraid of offending the demons by killing the 2 demon emperors. No one knew his true goal. Nuwa. That's right, Nuwa. Nuwa was a saint, but she was also a member of the demon race. In the hearts of billions of demons, Nuwa was the most respected person besides the 2 demon emperors. Yi Xian's goal was simple. He wanted to let Nuwa experience what it meant to be abandoned by everyone. He wanted Nuwa to live in endless regret and pain. If the so-called reckoning was just a simple battle with Nuwa, this was not the outcome that Yi Xian wanted. Not only did Yi Xian want Nuwa to experience the feeling of being abandoned by everyone, he was also constantly thinking of ways to kill Nuwa. He wanted to roast her primordial spirit for eternity and torture her to death. However, Yi Xian didn't forget one thing, and that was that saints were immortal. What was a heavenly Tao saint? As long as the heavenly Tao did not collapse, the saints would not perish. This was the foundation of the 7 great saints. Chapter 901. Look at how strong Tong Tian was. His immortal extermination sword formation had swept through all his enemies, but he could not kill other sages. In other words, during the investiture of the gods, the 4 sages broke through the immortal extermination sword formation, but Tong Tian was only defeated and left. His life was not in danger. Therefore, sages could not kill sages. This was an unchanging rule. Of course, there was always a counterbalance to everything. Nothing was absolute. Even a saint might not be truly immortal. However, it was definitely not that easy to kill a saint. Ever since Yi Xian passed the 3 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, he had been thinking about this problem. Kill a sage. Yes, kill a sage. Not only Nuwa, but also Yuanshi and the 2 sages of the West. These were all targets he wanted to kill. However, Yi Xian had only found some clues to solve the problem of immortality. This was only his own guess. Even Yi Xian was not sure if he could really kill a sage. Of course, a clue was better than nothing. What Yi Xian needed to do now was to plan. Subduing the 2 demonic emperors was only his first step. Yi Tiandi, please wait. Rumble. The starry sky rumbled as demonic light shot out. The 2 demonic emperors led thousands of demons, and finally caught up to Yi Xian. Yi Xian retracted his thoughts, and looked back at the 2 demonic emperors. Yi Xian smiled and said, "What is it?" Actually, Yi Xian had been listening to the 2 demonic emperors' conversation. Although he knew that Dong Huangtai wanted to lead the ancient demon court to submit to him, he still had to put on an act. After all, it would be too straightforward to say it out loud. Yi Tiandi, we have offended you in the past. Please forgive us, Yi Tiandi. Today, we are willing to lead the ancient demon court to submit to the Sky Emperor. Please take us in. Dong Huangtai bowed to Yi Xian. He did not use any fancy words, and directly expressed his intentions to Yi Xian. All right. Yi Xian nodded slowly without any pretense. He had already achieved his goal. If he were to decline hypocritically, it would show that he was scheming. Dong Huangtai and Di Jun were stunned when they heard Yi Xian's reply. They didn't expect things to go so smoothly. They didn't know what to say. With the 2 celestial courts united, there will only be 1 celestial court in this world. The 2 of you will become the 2 great celestial emperors of the celestial court. From now on, you will serve this emperor loyally, Yi Xian said bluntly. Yes, celestial emperor. The 2 demon emperors looked at each other, and then bowed to Yi Xian. Although the thousands of demons had complicated expressions, they still bowed to Yi Xian to show their loyalty. I have something to say. Although the 2 of you have led the ancient demon court to submit to me, Nuwa has a lot of karma with me. If she doesn't die, I will. You two have to think about this carefully, Yi Xian said softly. Heavenly Emperor, please understand. Although Nuwa is a member of the demon clan, she doesn't care about our kinship. She allowed the sorcerer tribe to harm the members of the demon clan, and put millions of demon clansmen in the abyss of suffering. Although she is a saint, she doesn't deserve to be a member of the demon clan. We will definitely be loyal to you, Heavenly Emperor, even if she is our enemy, Dong Huangtai said coldly. When Dong Huangtai had the thought of submitting to Yi Xian, he had already thought it through. Since Nuwa didn't care about the life and death of the demon tribe, he couldn't be blamed. Nuwa could only become the enemy of the demon tribe. All right. Yi Xian was waiting for Dong Huangtai to say this. He nodded in relief. Dong Huangtai, you are a smart person. I also like to deal with smart people. Although you have led the ancient demon court to submit to me, I am not a heartless person. Yi Xian paused for a moment. Then he looked at Dong Huangtai with narrowed eyes. Today, I promise you that you will still be the emperor of the demon tribe. I will protect millions of demons. If anyone dares to humiliate and kill the demon tribe, they will be my enemy. I will naturally not sit by and do nothing. Even if there is a saint blocking my way, I will definitely seek justice for the demon tribe. Yi Xian's way of controlling people was to return the favor and show mercy. This promise was given to the entire demon tribe by Yi Xian. This was because Yi Xian deeply understood that if he wanted the demon tribe to follow him loyally, asking blindly would only make the demon tribe rebel. Right now, what the demon race needed the most was a protector. So he, Yi Xian, would be the protector. Not only would he have the two demon emperors follow him loyally, he would also have the billions of demon race treat him, Yi Xian, as their supreme faith. The demon tribe will never forget Heaven Emperor's kindness. Dong Huangtai was overjoyed. His body and mind were trembling with excitement. He hurriedly asked Emperor Jun and the others to bow 3 times to Yi Xian with great gratitude. Dong Huangtai had done everything for the future of the demon tribe. Today, Yi Xian had made a promise to him, which was exactly what the demon tribe needed. How could Dong Huangtai not be grateful? The 2 demon emperors had led the ancient demon court to submit. This was a good thing for Yi Xian. The grievances of the past had been resolved. From now on, the 2 demon emperors would be loyal to him. Follow me, Yi Xian said softly, and walked forward slowly. The 2 demon emperors were stunned. They did not know where Yi Xian was taking them. Heaven Emperor, where are we going? Dong Huangtai asked. A strange smile appeared at the corner of Yi Xian's mouth. He slowly looked back at Dong Huangtai and the others and said indifferently and calmly, although I helped you stabilize the origin of the Great Way, the Bell of Chaos is your spiritual treasure. If you don't take it back, you can only live for 10,000 years. I don't want you to lose your life as soon as you follow me. Dong Huangtai was stunned when he heard Yi Xian's words. He did not understand the meaning of Yi Xian's words. However, Emperor Jun, who was beside him, turned pale and looked at Yi Xian in horror. Heaven Emperor, are you going to the Earth Palace to take back my brother's Bell of Chaos? Emperor Jun asked in horror. Dong Huangtai felt as if there was a sudden clap of thunder in his head. He instantly came to his senses and looked at Yi Xian with a complicated expression. Since the Eastern Emperor Tai Yi is this emperor's subject, and his treasure has been taken away, if this emperor doesn't seek justice, wouldn't others laugh at me, Yi Xian, for being incompetent and not being able to protect my own subject? Yi Xian coldly said, then walked towards the emperor's palace with large strides. Big brother, hurry up and catch up with Heaven Emperor. Emperor Jun's face was flushed. He pulled Dong Huangtai and caught up with Yi Xian. The thousands of great demons behind them were flushed with excitement, and quickly followed the 3 to the Earth Palace. Earth Palace. 7 days had passed since Earth Palace summoned all the orthodoxies. The orthodoxies had already left the Earth Palace. Apparently, Earth Palace was only using the Bell of Chaos as an excuse. How could she have the time to deal with them? Chapter 902. The river of stars rumbled and propitious vapors rose. The Earth Empress Palace was simple and majestic. The bronze gate was tightly shut. Other than the two Taoist children guarding the gate, the entire Earth Empress Palace was silent. Qi, qi. Demonic light surged, and the void rippled. Thousands of demonic lights streaked across the sky in the distance, and instantly appeared in front of the Earth Empress Palace. This also caused the expressions of the two Tao children to change. They immediately scolded the person who came. "How dare you, demons? Who allowed you to barge into the Earth Empress Palace without being summoned by Goddess Hutu? Don't you know that this is the Saints' Tao field?" The two Taoist children were merely golden immortals of all heaven, but they were not afraid in the face of thousands of great demons. Instead, they were arrogant. After all, they were the children of the sages, so they naturally had the right to be arrogant. Unfortunately, the thousands of demons remained silent in the face of the berating of the two Tao children. They did not reply at all. Instead, they opened up a path, and three figures walked over from the end of the path. "Dong Huangtai, you dare to return?" When Yi Xian and company arrived at the Earth Empress Palace, one of the Tao children naturally recognized the two demonic emperors. The two Tao children were stunned for a moment before they reprimanded them. "Go and tell Empress Hutu that an old friend has come to visit. Ask her to come out and meet him." Emperor Jun said coldly. "Insolent. Her Highness is a saint. How can she be met just like that? Hurry up and back off." Bang! Before the two children could finish speaking, a terrifying demonic light slammed into them, causing them to spit out blood and collapse to the ground. You dare to injure me?" The two children felt like they were in a dream after being hit by Di Jun's attack. They couldn't believe what they had just experienced. How dare Emperor Jun attack them? Isn't he afraid that Goddess Hutu will kill him? At this moment, Yi Xian was shrouded in mist, making it impossible for others to see his face. This was to prevent others from recognizing him. After all, the Heavenmender conference had yet to begin, so it was not appropriate for him to reveal his true appearance. In Yi Xian's opinion, it was a trivial matter for Emperor Jun to injure the two Taoist children with one strike. "How dare you?" Suddenly, a cold voice rang out from Earth Empress Palace. The bronze door rumbled open, and the sacred light of samsara surged out from Earth Empress Palace. The sacred might of the heavenly Tao pressed down on everyone. "Hutu, I haven't seen you for many years. You haven't grown much, but your temper has." Before the sacred light of samsara could strike, Yi Xian's calm voice rang out. The world suddenly froze, and the sacred light of samsara that erupted from the Earth Mother Palace instantly froze. An extremely bewildered voice rang out from the Earth Mother Palace. "Who are you? You're really forgetful. It's only been 30,000 years, and you can't even recognize my voice?" Yi Xian smiled coldly and strode into the back of Earth Palace. The two demon thearchs and thousands of great demons quickly followed behind him. Everyone's face was flushed with excitement. As the saying goes, one can know the whole leopard from a single spot. Since Yi Xian dared to come here so brazenly, it was obvious that he wasn't afraid of Hutu. His imposing manner naturally boosted the morale of the two demon thearchs and thousands of great demons. Inside the Earth Mother Palace, Hutu sat cross-legged in the sacred light of samsara, and the bell of chaos floated in front of her. However, at this moment, her aura was extremely chaotic, and her face was full of bewilderment. "It's you?" When Yi Xian came to Hutu with the two demon thearchs, the mist around Yi Xian dispersed, revealing his true appearance. Hutu's expression changed drastically, and she let out a cry of surprise. "How dare you appear here?" Hutu stood up abruptly, and the sacred light of samsara swept across the void. Her beautiful brows were knitted together, and she looked at Yi Xian with a complicated expression. It was this person in front of her who gave her the primordial violet qi, allowing her to successfully become a saint. She also owed him 3 conditions. Although she'd already fulfilled 2 of them, she still owed Yi Xian 1 condition. The world is vast, and all living things coexist. Why can't Yi Xian appear here? Yi Xian smiled and looked at Hutu with an extremely calm expression. Phew. Hutu exhaled and gradually calmed down, regaining her dignity as a saint. However, when she looked at the 2 demon thearchs beside Yi Xian, her eyes became slightly gloomy, and there was a trace of doubt. She didn't know why Yi Xian was with the two demon thearchs. Speak. You risked being discovered by senior sister Nuwa to come and see me. You must want me to fulfill the third condition I promised you. You can state it, and I won't decline. Huda had already become a saint, so she naturally didn't care about Yi Xian. However, she owed Yi Xian saint karma, which she had to repay. This made her speak frankly. Great. Yi Xian clapped and smiled. He didn't want to feign civility with Hutu, so he went straight to the point. The Bell of Chaos is Donghuang Tai's lifelong spiritual treasure. I came to see you this time to ask for it. What? As Yi Xian's words fell, Huda's expression suddenly turned cold, and the way she looked at Yi Xian became unfriendly. One had to know that she had just obtained the Bell of Primal Chaos. This was a primordial treasure, and in her hands, it could unleash a power that could destroy the heavens and the earth. These few days, she had carefully refined this item, and she loved it even more. However, Yi Xian actually wanted to take back this item for the Eastern Emperor Tai. This caused Huda's heart to burn with rage. Impossible. Huda suppressed her anger and refuted Yi Xian's intentions. Oh, it seems that fellow Taoist Huda doesn't want to give me face? Yi Xian frowned, and the smile on his face gradually disappeared. Yi Xian, although I owe you karma to become a saint, don't be too unreasonable. Change your conditions. Huda said coldly. If Yi Xian hadn't helped her become a saint, Yi Xian's words today would have made Huda kill him thousands of times. Huda could only suppress her anger and hope that Yi Xian wouldn't go overboard. Looking at Huda's furious appearance, Yi Xian didn't need to guess to know what Huda was thinking. This made him smile contemptuously. It seemed that Huda really thought that he dared to appear here, because he owed her karma to become a saint. In the past, I gave you the primordial violet vapor, and asked you to agree to 3 conditions. You've already fulfilled 2 of them. The third condition is to return the Bell of Chaos to Donghuang Tai. Yi Xian smiled, as if he were talking about something very casual. Celestial Emperor, you can't. Upon hearing Yi Xian's words, Donghuang Tai hurriedly stopped him. One had to know that becoming a saint was extremely important. Now that Yi Xian wanted to help him get the Bell of Chaos back, Donghuang Tai was almost moved to tears. However, he also knew that he couldn't let Yi Xian waste this favor. Otherwise, he'd feel extremely ashamed. You? Huda frowned when she saw Yi Xian use the third condition as an exchange. Her eyes were filled with extreme anger. But in the end, she could only accept it. Although a Khanate supreme treasure was good, it didn't mean that the Bell of Chaos couldn't be used. Perhaps it was to return Yi Xian's third condition, which was even more important to Hutu. Alright, this saint agrees. Take it. Hutu was a straightforward person. She threw the Bell of Chaos at Yi Xian. This allowed Yi Xian to catch the treasure and hand it to Donghuang Tai. Our karma has been settled. Farewell. With the Bell of Chaos back, Yi Xian smiled and turned to leave. This allowed the 2 great demonic emperors and thousands of great demonic beasts to quickly follow. The process was unexpectedly smooth. Wait! Suddenly, before Yi Xian could take 3 steps, Huda's cold and gloomy voice rang out. The terrifying sacred light of Samsara covered Huda Palace and blocked Yi Xian's path. Chapter 903. Yi Xian. Yi Daoyu. Yi Tiandi. Since the karma between us has been settled, how are you going to settle the crime of disrespecting me? Or do you think that my Huda Palace is a place where you can come and go as you please? Hiss. When Huda's voice echoed in the entire palace, the thousands of demons gasped. They felt as if they had fallen into an indescribable winter, and the threat of death invaded everyone's hearts. At this moment, Huda slowly stood up, and the sacred light of reincarnation bloomed to the extreme. The heavenly Tao's sacred power locked onto Yi Xian, and an extremely terrifying saint's killing intent filled the entire palace. Clearly, the anger that Huda had suppressed for a long time finally erupted at this moment. If Yi Xian only wanted her to return the third favor, Huda would not have the intention to kill Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian arrogantly asked her to return the Bell of Chaos, which was a great insult to her. Now that she had returned the favor of becoming a saint, Huda naturally did not hold back anymore. She directly revealed an extremely terrifying saint's killing intent to Yi Xian. Interesting. Suddenly, just as the atmosphere was extremely oppressive, a chuckle came from Yi Xian's mouth. He slowly turned around and looked at Hutu. You want to kill me? A strange smile appeared on Yi Xian's lips, and the way he looked at Hutu was even more unfathomable. Yi Xian, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself for not knowing when to stop and being too arrogant. You really shouldn't have appeared in front of me, Hutu said coldly, and the saint's killing intent was obvious. Come, let me see how capable a new saint like you is. Yi Xian smiled. He really did smile, but his smile was very strange. He even waved his hand at Hutu, causing her to be stunned. An extremely bad feeling arose in her heart. Something's wrong. Hutu wasn't stupid. At this moment, Yi Xian's expression was as calm as the wind and clouds, and his face carried a smile that caused her heart to palpitate. If Hutu still couldn't see that there was a problem, then she herself would call herself an idiot. Wang. Heavenly Path's divine might, sacred eye of reincarnation. Hutu's eyes rotated slightly, constantly examining Yi Xian, hoping to see something. Hutu spat out a mouthful of turbid air. In just a breath of time, the corner of Hutu's mouth curled into a relaxed smile. This was because she could tell at a glance that Yi Xian was not a saint, and there was no so-called heavenly Tao saint energy in his body. If you don't become a saint, you're just an ant. Hutu smiled coldly. She finally let down her guard against Yi Xian. She even mocked herself in her heart. What was wrong with her? Why did she take Yi Xian so seriously? She was the 7th Heavenly Path saint. Now that the world's saint positions were full, how could Yi Xian become a saint? Yi Xian, although you helped me become a saint, your arrogance will cost you your life today. If I don't teach you a lesson, I'm afraid you won't realize it. Dong dong dong. The thunder of the heavenly Tao, the might of a saint, and the void of the heavens rumbled and shook. The terrifying sacred light of reincarnation suffused Hutu's body. She slowly raised her palm and looked at Yi Xian with an extremely indifferent gaze. Boom. The void was destroyed, and the laws were rioting. Hutu's palm pressed down on Yi Xian. The terrifying sacred light of reincarnation spread out, and the mighty power that could destroy mountains and rivers was released to the extreme. Be careful, Heavenly Emperor. The two demonic emperors growled in horror. Their pupils contracted to the extreme. This was an attack from a saint. Apart from other saints, no one could withstand it. Although the two demonic emperors suspected that Yi Xian was already a saint, when Yi Xian faced a saint, their hearts trembled. They didn't think Yi Xian could withstand Hutu's attack. Yi Xian, you and I are saints. Today, I will suppress you and let you know that saints are not to be blasphemed. Hutu said coldly. Her slender palm had already trapped Yi Xian and pressed down on Yi Xian mercilessly. It was as if Yi Xian would suffer an unimaginable calamity in the next moment. Yi Xian's eyes flickered. He slowly raised his hand and faced Hutu's attack. He didn't show any terrifying aura. You are courting death. Seeing that Yi Xian didn't dodge and attacked her instead, Hutu's face turned cold. The reincarnation light in her palm became even more terrifying. She didn't hold back and attacked Yi Xian. Dong. Time seemed to stop, and space seemed to be frozen. A dull sound came from the entire Hutu palace. What happened next made the two demonic emperors' souls leave their bodies. They were completely stunned on the spot. Yi Xian's 5 jade-like fingers were gently pressing on Hutu's palm. Their palms were stuck together. The terrifying reincarnation light annihilated the void. Terrifying spatial cracks appeared. Hutu's cold face turned into shock. No matter how she used her saint power, she couldn't make Yi Xian take a step back, let alone kill Yi Xian on the spot. Is that all you can do? Yi Xian was dressed in black. His black hair hung behind his head. He had a smile on his face. He looked at Hutu quietly, as if he was looking at a joke. Rumble. Black holy light exploded out as strands of black mist revolved around Yi Xian's body. A destructive aura that seemed to be able to bury the heavens and destroy the earth exploded out from Yi Xian's body. He seemed to have become a completely different person in an instant, displaying an unimaginable might. Yi Xian smiled coldly. His arm trembled as a black holy light that could annihilate everything erupted from his palm. What happened next caused the two demon emperors to scream in excitement, and the thousands of greater demons to roar in fear. Bang! The reincarnation light collapsed. Huta was sent flying. She fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. The entire Huta palace shook violently, as if it was going to collapse at any time. Silence. Silence. Dead silence. When Yi Xian sent Huta flying with a single palm strike, the two demonic emperors, and thousands of demonic emperors witnessed this unbelievable scene. They were all stunned speechless. One could even vaguely hear the sound of their teeth chattering. It was as if they were in a dream. They couldn't believe it. These simple words expressed everyone's feelings. The unchanging iron law was broken. The so-called defying and becoming a saint only existed in legends. But today, they actually witnessed it with their own eyes. Terrifying. It was too terrifying. It was extremely terrifying. It was an ancient legend. Everyone below the saint was an ant. No one could go against the will of the saint. No one could disrespect the saint. The saint was the heaven and the earth. The saint represented the heaven and earth. All living things in the world had to submit to the heaven and earth. This was how the saints of heaven and earth came to be. But what did they see today? A person who wasn't a saint actually sent a saint flying with a single strike. This was simply a fantasy. Throughout the history of the world, such a miraculous thing had never happened before. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, no one would dare to believe it. But today, they witnessed this fantasy with their own eyes. They even witnessed the breaking of the unchanging iron law. Chapter 904. Impossible. How? How is this possible? Suddenly, an extremely furious roar sounded out. Hutu, who was blasted flying by Yi Xian, returned. Her originally graceful and luxurious temperament no longer existed, and her black hair was extremely messy. How could she have the bearing of a saint? At this moment, Huta seemed to have suffered an enormous blow, as if she'd fallen into a deranged obsession. Her gaze towards Yi Xian was filled with a complicated and incomprehensible feeling. Impossible, absolutely impossible. You don't have the heavenly ways saint aura. You haven't become a saint. How can you have saint power in your body? Huta crazily roared as she looked at Yi Xian with an expression of extreme shock. The black holy energy that Yi Xian had released just now was too terrifying, causing her to feel a fear of death in her heart. Even her holy light of samsara was annihilated by this force. However, Huta was very puzzled. Yi Xian didn't have the heavenly way saint aura, and the saint power that burst out was different from any other saint. What was going on? You've become a saint. Huta gradually calmed down. She didn't attack Yi Xian again, because the attack just now made Huta understand that Yi Xian's cultivation was not below hers. Even if they fought again, it would be useless. Become a saint. Yi Xian laughed self-deprecatingly, as if he had heard a great joke. He finally felt what Yuan Ling felt at that moment. These so-called saints seemed to have the cultivation of Tong Tian, but in fact, their vision was not high. They were only frogs at the bottom of a well. They didn't know what the true meaning of becoming a saint was. The so-called merit saint was already their end. The holy road is far away. Your so-called saint aura is just a joke in my eyes. Yi Xian whispered indifferently. Hearing Yi Xian's words, Huta's expression changed. She carefully sensed Yi Xian's aura, but the more she sensed Yi Xian's aura, the more Huta's heart shook. Returning to one's original state, the great Tao is the simplest. Without the support of the heavenly Tao, you only have the aura of a sage to be, but you have the cultivation of a sage. How is this possible? Huta whispered in surprise. Her eyes trembled as she looked at Yi Xian. There was great fear in her eyes. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't feel the slightest bit of shock from Hutu. He only narrowed his eyes as he looked at Hutu and said, "Our karma has already been settled. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. However, this emperor hopes that you can take care of yourself. If you die right after becoming a saint, this isn't something that you, Hutu, want to experience, right?" A threat, a blatant threat. This was Yi Xian's attitude at the moment. It also made Huta's face turn red. The reincarnation holy light burst out, but she didn't attack Yi Xian. The Wu tribe rose because of you. so protect the Wu tribe well. But I want to tell you that the ancient demon court has already submitted to me. From now on, the demon tribe will be under my protection. You'd better restrain the Wu tribe and not make things difficult for them. Otherwise, Yi Xian said calmly, but he didn't continue. Obviously, the following words were self-evident. Let's go. Yi Xian suddenly turned around and strode out of the Huda palace. This also made the two demon emperors and thousands of demons follow him in a daze. They felt that everything they had experienced was not so real. At this moment, Huda clenched her fists tightly and stared at Yi Xian's back as he left. Her face was extremely red. She wanted to say something and suppress Yi Xian, but in the end, she let Yi Xian leave without stopping him. Yi Xian, Yi Tiandi, I underestimated you. Huda let out a long sigh, as if she had aged a lot at this moment. A bitter expression appeared on her face. The cultivation that Yi Xian had displayed today had shocked Hutu. She was even more afraid of Yi Xian, and something called fear had grown in her heart. Hutu wasn't afraid of Yi Xian's cultivation. Although Yi Xian's cultivation wasn't weaker than hers, Yi Xian couldn't kill her. Their cultivation was about the same. In fact, the real reason why Hutu was afraid of Yi Xian was because of Yi Xian's methods and his mysterious way of doing things. Huda felt like she was a doll that was controlled by Yi Xian. This feeling suddenly appeared in her heart, and it was also the reason why she was afraid of Yi Xian. 30,000 years ago, she had no chance of becoming a saint. It was Yi Xian who strangely gave her the primordial violet vapor that allowed her to become a saint. Primordial violet vapor was a supreme treasure that could allow someone to become a saint, yet Yi Xian gave it to her. Couldn't Yi Xian use it to become a saint? Why did he do this? Today, after 30,000 years, Yi Xian appeared before her again. Although he hadn't become a saint, his cultivation wasn't inferior to hers. Yi Xian was plotting something earth-shattering. This was Huta's intuition. Not only was he plotting against her, he might be plotting against other saints as well. Her hair stood on end while her body and mind trembled. When she thought of this possibility, she felt as if she had fallen into an eternal winter. Her heart couldn't calm down for a long time. Without Tongtian's cultivation, Yi Xian wouldn't dare to come here. I'm afraid that once the Heavenmender festival starts, Yi Xian will settle the old karma with Niwa. I can't participate in this matter. Huda finally calmed down and murmured to herself. Yi Xian's cultivation isn't weaker than a saint, and Tongtian is on good terms with him. Judging from his past temperament, he will definitely cause great waves. The three realms will definitely undergo a great change. I have to wait and see. On a withered star, starlight sprinkled down from the sky. Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back. The two demon emperors, and more than 1,000 greater demons bowed to him. Everyone looked at Yi Xian with reverence. This was how humans were. The strong were always respected. When Yi Xian led them to take back the Bell of Chaos from Hutu, he even sent her flying with one blow. This completely established Yi Xian's majestic image. Heaven Emperor, Huda will definitely hold a grudge against you for what you did today. Aren't you afraid that she will leak your whereabouts to Niwa and Yuanshi? Dijun doubtfully asked. For Huda to be able to endure the endless amount of time in the underworld, to seize the position of the seventh saint, this also means that she is a smart person. She won't do this, because this will cause harm to me, and will even drag her into the dispute between the saints. She's not that stupid. Yi Xian lightly smiled as he explained. Clearly, Yi Xian had calculated everything. Otherwise, he wouldn't have appeared in front of Hutu. To put it bluntly, Huta's ascension to the saint realm was all under his control. If Yi Xian could miscalculate such a small matter, he wouldn't have his current cultivation. Chapter 905. The two demon emperors could completely feel the confidence that Yi Xian was emitting from the inside out. The two demon emperors' spirits were lifted, and they felt that their decision to follow Yi Xian was the right choice. Heaven Emperor, I don't know if I should ask you something. Dong Huangtai hesitated for a while, and then asked tentatively, do you want to know if I have become a sage? Yi Xian lightly smiled. He'd already guessed what Dong Huangtai wanted to ask. After all, There were only 7 saints in the world, and this was an unchanging iron law. Yet today, when Yi Xian and Huda clashed, not only did they not fall into a disadvantageous position, they even blasted Huda flying. How could this not cause Dong Huangtai and the others to be extremely surprised? The so-called virtue becoming a sage is just borrowing the power of the way of heaven, which is the power of this world. With the support of the way of heaven, one can display the power of a sage. As for the so-called 7 sages in the world, this is actually just a general statement. This is because the laws of this world are incomplete. It is basically a world with incomplete laws. It is impossible for others to become a saint even if they want to. The so-called primordial violet qi makes up for the incomplete laws of this world. That is why the 7 sages were born. Yi Xian slowly explained the mystery of sages, which made the 2 demonic emperors listen carefully. Their expressions changed constantly, and their eyes flashed with surprise from time to time. Obviously, when Yi Xian crossed the heavenly law 3 realms, he could feel the changes in the world and understand the origin of the 7 sages. I walk the path of proving my Tao through strength. In fact, I'm not a saint. I'm still in the sage-to-be realm, but I'm the heaven and earth myself. I'm not affected by the incomplete rules of the great Tao of the outside world. Yi Xian didn't hold anything back, as he bluntly introduced his current cultivation. Not only was this a reassurance for the 2 demon emperors, it was also to tell them that they might have a chance to become a saint in the future. Heaven Emperor. You mean we still have a chance to become sages? Emperor Jun's face turned red, and his voice trembled. Hard. Yi Xian shook his head slowly and sighed. I've said before that the great Tao of this world is incomplete, so no one can become a saint. The 7 saints can become saints because of the primordial violet energy bestowed by Tao ancestor Hong Jun. And there are only 2 possibilities for others to become saints. Celestial Emperor, please enlighten me. Dong Huangtai bowed solemnly. The 2 of them had been stuck at the pinnacle of quasi-saint for countless years. There was no possibility for them to advance any further. Becoming a saint was their lifelong dream. Yi Xian was never stingy with his own people. Since the 2 great demonic emperors had submitted to him, Yi Xian would naturally not hold back in this aspect. The first method is to prove one's way with strength, also known as breaking all methods with one's strength. This method is not restricted by the world, and relies on one's own strength to stand above the heavenly path. If one can transcend and pass through the 9 tribulations of the heavenly path, one can become a saint among saints. Hiss! Hearing Yi Xian's words, the 2 great demonic emperors gasped. Although they knew about the method of proving one's way with strength, they did not expect it to be so terrifying. Relying on one's own strength to transcend the heavenly path and break through the shackles of the world to become a saint among saints was simply a fantasy. No matter how strong one was, he still existed under the heavenly path. How could he transcend under the heavenly path? Looking at the 2 great demonic emperors' disappointed expressions, Yi Xian smiled and said, The second method is very simple. Complete the great Tao of this world, and the 2 of you will have the chance to become saints. Complete the great Tao of law. Dong Huangtai frowned, and then looked at Yi Xian with a self-deprecating smile. The great Tao of law is extremely mysterious. Let alone us. I'm afraid that even the saints do not understand it. How can we complete it? The 2 great demonic emperors were finally disappointed, because they could not do either of the 2 methods. The last hope in their hearts to become saints disappeared without a trace. Completing the great Tao of law is not difficult, but it is not easy either. Yi Xian looked up at the starry sky. His eyes were slightly absent-minded, as if he was gazing at the mysterious chaotic world through the starry sky. Heaven Emperor, do you have a way? Emperor Jun was overjoyed and quickly asked. Yi Xian withdrew his gaze and looked at the 2 demonic emperors with a smile. It is very simple to complete the great Tao of law. I need to pass the 9 tribulations of the heavenly path and become a saint among saints. At that time, I can condense the great Tao of law and complete this world. Naturally, you can also become saints. I see. When Yi Xian finished speaking, the 2 demonic emperors suddenly understood. Their eyes were burning with passion, and the way they looked at Yi Xian became increasingly different. However, this matter is still too far away. It is hard to say whether I can pass the 6 tribulations of the heavenly path. Now what I need to do is to settle the karma of the past with Nuwa, Yi Xian whispered coldly. Billions of demonic emperors pledge their loyalty to you. We swear that we will never betray you, Heaven Emperor. If we violate this oath, our souls will scatter and we will die. The 2 demonic emperors looked at each other, and then made the great vow of the heart demon. Good. Yi Xian smiled. The 2 demonic emperors were now loyal to Yi Xian. This was the result that he wanted. As a superior, using the carrot and stick was the most basic method. Yi Xian had saved Donghuang Tai, helped him take back the Donghuang bell from Hutu, and promised the 2 demonic emperors that he would protect the entire demonic race. This was kindness. He forced Hutu to retreat with 1 blow, and displayed a cultivation level that was not weaker than a sage. This was power. Although he had both grace and power, Yi Xian knew one principle. The so-called loyalty was based on benefits. Only mutually beneficial benefits could make the 2 demon emperors swear to follow him to the death. Therefore, Yi Xian told the 2 that they still had a chance to become a sage. However, the prerequisite was that he had to become the sage of all sages in order to complete the great Tao. This made the 2 demonic emperors extremely excited, and they stood firmly on his side. Obviously, as a superior, Yi Xian was very successful. He had successfully subdued the 2 demonic emperors. From this, it could be seen that Yi Xian was indeed a scheming person. He would never trust anyone. Only by linking benefits together could he form a supreme celestial court that unified the 3 realms. Time flew by like water. In the blink of an eye, 60 years had passed. The stars rotated in the vast starry sky. One figure after another traversed through space, heading towards the Hutu Palace. Today was the opening day of the Heaven Mender Festival. Not only would the various systems and quasi-saints be present, but several sages would also be present. This was an unprecedented event, so it naturally attracted the attention of all living beings in the 3 realms. There was an earthy yellow star that was vast and boundless, shining with golden light. It was releasing an auspicious aura. Countless figures stood on this star, and celestial music from the 9 heavens could be heard in the vast starry sky. Chapter 906. There were 9 auspicious clouds in the 9 heavens, and a vast sea of stars. 9 auspicious clouds were drifting in the starry sky, and many cloud tables were erected in all directions. Many spirit fruits and immortal wines were placed on each of the cloud tables, and there were even female immortals dancing in the center of the clouds, singing a beautiful immortal melody. Clang, clang, clang. 81 bell rings echoed in the vast starry sky. As the ancient bell rings rang, countless figures soared into the sky and entered the auspicious cloud banquet. Greetings, fellow Taoists. The immortal Wang of the South Pole had a benevolent face. He was now a sage-to-be, and the deputy sect master of the Chan sect. Behind him were the immortals of the Chan sect. They were sitting in the auspicious cloud banquet and greeted the various orthodoxies. On the other side, Shen Gongbao led the immortals of the Chan sect into the auspicious cloud banquet. Tens of thousands of years had passed, but Shen Gongbao was only at the peak of zenith heaven and had not broken into the sage-to-be realm. Compared to the immortal Wang of the South Pole, he naturally lost in momentum. Oh, I was wondering who it was. So it's the fellow Taoist of the Chan sect. I wonder if you have a perfect plan to mend the heavens in this heaven-mending grand banquet. The immortal Wang of the South Pole sneered. Humph. Shen Gongbao's face turned cold and chose to ignore the immortal Wang of the South Pole. However, there was a hint of embarrassment and anger in his eyes. This was because there had been constant friction between the 2 sects for tens of thousands of years, and it always ended with the defeat of the Chan sect. After all, the Chan sect did not even have a sage-to-be. Whoosh! Magus light shook the sky, and blood chi surged. Just as the old man of the South Pole was about to mock him, he saw a few ancestral magi enter the auspicious cloud banquet. There were more than 10 ancient magi following behind them. That made the old man of the South Pole's expression change. He hurriedly called for the immortals of Chan's school to stand up and cupped his hands to greet the Magi. I'm the old man of the South Pole. Greetings, fellow Taoists. The old man of the South Pole was extremely humble. He even bowed to the ancestral Magi. Suddenly, ancestral Witch Xianming snorted coldly and looked at the old man of the South Pole. If I remember correctly, you, a junior, have already led the Chan school to join the ancient demon court. You were even conferred the title of the South Pole Emperor by Di Jun, right? Misunderstanding. Ancestral Witch Xianming misunderstood. The old man of the South Pole's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly forced a smile and explained, my Chan school lineage is a disciple of Yuanshi Tianzuan. In the past, we joined the ancient demon court to destroy the 33rd celestial court. We even wanted to capture and kill Yi Xian. Actually, my Chan school and the ancient demon court are only cooperating. How can we really join the demons? I see. The old man of the South Pole heaved a sigh of relief. He did not want to be hated by the sorcerer tribe. Moreover, the sorcerer tribe was powerful now. Naturally, he wanted to befriend the sorcerer tribe. After all, the sorcerer tribe had the support of a saint. What a shameless clown. Suddenly, a furious voice rang out. This made the immortal hermit of the South Pole's expression change. Great fury filled his eyes as he looked towards the source of the voice. However, when he saw who it was, the fury in his eyes vanished. Instead, a fawning expression appeared on his face. At this moment, the two demon emperors came together, followed by thousands of great demons. The two demon emperors looked at the old man of the South Pole with extremely unfriendly eyes. It was obvious that the scolding just now was from the demons. When the demons arrived, the various orthodoxies had strange expressions. This was because everyone knew that the ancient demon court was no longer the same as before. Ever since the earth-shattering battle with the 33rd celestial court, the ancient demon court's vitality could be said to have been greatly damaged. The Huda saint had also been brutally suppressed by the witch tribe. At this moment, the ancient demon court was no longer as powerful as before. However, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Although the ancient demon court's vitality was greatly damaged, it was not something that the other orthodoxies could afford to offend. After all, the two demon emperors and thousands of great ancient demons were not to be trifled with. However, the various orthodoxies and boundary sages did not stand up. Although they could not afford to offend the demons, they did not want to have too much to do with them. After all, the witch tribe was right next to them. If they stood up and greeted the demons, wouldn't the witch tribe see them as enemies? No one would do such a stupid thing. The two demon emperors seemed to have expected the various orthodoxies' cold attitude and chose to ignore the crowd. However, what happened next stunned the various orthodoxies at the auspicious cloud banquet. The originally noisy crowd suddenly quieted down. Sir, please take a seat. The two demonic beast monarchs bowed slightly, and a slender figure walked out from behind them. This person was clad in black, with long black strands of hair draped behind her head. She wore a ghost mask that looked like she was crying, yet not crying, yet not smiling. She gave off an extremely mysterious feeling. Obviously, the person wearing the ghost mask was Yi Xian. Naturally, he would not show his true face at the Skyminder banquet this time. After all, the sages had not arrived yet. If he showed his true face, it would naturally cause a huge commotion. This would be extremely detrimental to Yi Xian's plan, and was not the result he wanted. When the two demon emperors respectfully bowed to Yi Xian, and this scene appeared in everyone's eyes, a large number of bewildered voices sounded out. Everyone looked at Yi Xian with extreme bewilderment. Who is he? Landia frowned. He used a strand of divine intent to spy on Yi Xian's true appearance and cultivation. However, before his divine intent could touch Yi Xian, it strangely disappeared without a trace. This greatly changed Landia's expression as he looked at Yi Xian with a serious expression. What a strange method, Landia muttered solemnly. He then looked at Jun Yuanzi and said, Can you see his true appearance? Don't cause trouble. Today's Skyminder banquet is not ordinary. You and I should just wait and see. Jun Yuanzi, the ancestor of earthly immortals, lowered his eyes as if he was resting. However, he secretly transmitted his voice to Landia. Not only the two sage-to-be, but various orthodoxies and some sage-to-be were also spying on Yi Xian. However, without exception, their spying was blocked. They could not see Yi Xian's true appearance at all. However, everyone was extremely surprised. What kind of people were the two demonic emperors? Although they were suppressed by the sorcerer tribe, they were still the leaders of billions of demonic clans. For the two demonic emperors to be so humble, the other party must have a frightening background. Ha! Ancestral Witch Chang Liang turned his eyes and strode toward Donghuang Tai. He even stopped in front of Yi Xian and said, Donghuang Tai, may I know who this Taoist friend is? Can you introduce him to me? Get lost. Di Jun had the most violent temper. Moreover, Yi Xian had already told them what to do today. Naturally, he did not care about the ancestral witches present. This caused Di Jun to scold them directly. Di Jun, how dare you scold me? Ancestral Witch Chang Liang's expression changed. Tongtian witchcraft light burst out from his body, causing the entire auspicious cloud banquet to rumble. It was as if he would attack Di Jun in the next moment. Chang Liang, you're a guest. Today is the Skyminder banquet held by Goddess Hutu. We can't lose our hospitality. Ancestral Witch Tianhao smiled and stopped in front of Ancestral Witch Chang Liang. This caused Ancestral Witch Chang Liang to sneer and withdraw his qi. He flung his sleeves and returned to the seats of the Wu tribe. However, his eyes were full of killing intent when he looked at Di Jun. May I know where this Taoist friend is cultivating? Today is the Skyminder banquet, held by the saint of the Wu tribe, Goddess Hutu. If you are willing to be on good terms with the Wu tribe, you can sit with me. Ancestral Witch Tianhao cupped his hands and bowed to Yi Xian with a kind smile on his face. Tap, tap, tap. An embarrassing scene appeared. Yi Xian seemed to treat Ancestral Witch Tianhao as heir and walked past him. The two demon emperors sneered and followed until the three of them entered the seats of the demon tribe. This caused Ancestral Witch Tianhao's body to stiffen, and a trace of shame and anger appeared on his face. Good, good, good. No matter how good Ancestral Witch Tianhao's temper was, he could not bear the naked contempt of Yi Xian and others. This made him so angry that he laughed. He glared at Yi Xian and returned to the camp of the Wu tribe. Chapter 907. The orthodoxies were astonished that he dared to disrespect the sorcerer tribe. They even began to speculate about Yi Xian's identity. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was wearing a mask, so no one knew who he was. A person who was treated so respectfully by the two demonic emperors would definitely not be a nobody. However, the orthodoxies only sneered in their hearts. No matter who Yi Xian was, the demonic tribe would not be able to do anything with a sage here. Goddess Hutu has arrived. Clang, clang, clang. Morning bell and evening drum. Auspicious aura rippled. Golden clouds rumbled in the sky, and auspicious clouds appeared. The Earth Empress Palace emitted the holy light of the heavenly Tao, and a majestic and noble figure walked out of the Earth Empress Palace. It was the Earth Empress, who was known as Mother Earth, and also the seventh saint under the heavenly Tao. Goddess Hutu was dressed in a golden robe, with the sacred light of reincarnation covering her body. The heavenly Tao's sacred aura rumbled as she slowly walked into the auspicious cloud banquet. Greetings, heavenly Tao sage. Greetings, Goddess Hutu. Greetings, sage of our tribe. As Hutu entered the auspicious cloud banquet, the orthodoxies quickly stood up and bowed respectfully. Clearly, no one dared to be negligent in front of a sage. They all expressed their utmost respect. In the vast starry sky, there were 7 auspicious clouds. These 7 auspicious clouds were the seats of the sage. Hutu sat on the 7th auspicious cloud with a kind smile on her face, as she looked at the various orthodoxies. However, when she saw Yi Xian beside the 2 demonic emperors, her eyes instantly froze. However, this detail was so subtle that no one noticed it. Clearly, Yi Xian did not need to take off his mask for Hutu to know that he was Yi Xian. Although she had already guessed that Yi Xian would appear at the Skyminder banquet, and was mentally prepared, Hutu was still extremely shocked when she saw Yi Xian in person. Friends, there's no need to be so polite. Hutu smiled amiably, displaying the majesty of a sage. How dare you? Why don't you bow when you see a saint? Suddenly, in this harmonious atmosphere, ancestral shaman Xian Ming strode out. He pointed at Yi Xian and berated him. He looked at Yi Xian with a gloomy expression. Such a scene naturally attracted the attention of various orthodoxies. When they saw Yi Xian sitting calmly, without standing up to greet Hutu, their eyes widened in shock as they looked at Yi Xian. At this moment, the two monster monarchs led thousands of monsters to bow to Hutu. After all, Hutu was a heavenly Tao saint. They had to respect her. However, Yi Xian couldn't bow to Hutu like the others. Why Yi Xian was wearing a grimace mask. He lifted the wine pot on the table and gently poured himself a cup of immortal wine. Then he raised the cup and drank it all in one gulp. It was as if he did not notice the attention of all the orthodoxies and did not respond to the scolding of ancestral sorcerer Xian Ming. How dare you be so presumptuous? Ancestral shaman Xian Ming shouted angrily and strode towards Yi Xian. His eyes were filled with a terrifying murderous glint. The few ancestral shamans of the sorcerer tribe also stood up and locked their terrifying auras on Yi Xian. It was no wonder that the ancestral shamans were furious. The Heaven-Mending Conference was convened by Hutu, a saint of the sorcerer tribe. Yi Xian didn't even bow to Hutu. He was looking down on Hutu and the sorcerer tribe. How could the ancestral shamans not want to kill him? Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't seem to notice the ancestral shaman's overbearing attitude. He only looked up at the vast starry sky, as if he was waiting for someone to arrive. Yi Xian was not deliberately putting on an act. Ever since he passed the 3 tribulations of the heavenly Tao, he didn't care about anyone other than the saints. To put it bluntly, if Yi Xian wanted to, he could kill anyone he wanted. Who could be his opponent? Bang! With a loud bang, the cloud table shattered. Ancestral shaman Xian Ming had already arrived in front of Yi Xian and smashed the cloud table in front of Yi Xian into pieces. He looked at Yi Xian with a cruel expression. I'm asking you a question. Why didn't you bow to the saint of my tribe? Ancestral shaman Xian Ming scolded coldly. The ancestral shaman's divine light rumbled, as if he was going to attack Yi Xian in the next moment. I dare to bow to her. Does she dare to accept it? Yi Xian finally retracted his gaze from the vast starry sky. He glanced at ancestral shaman Xian Ming and said calmly, Wow! It stirred up a huge commotion. When Yi Xian finished speaking, all the orthodoxies gasped. They looked at Yi Xian as if they were looking at a lunatic. There was an uproar from their mouths. Is this person crazy? How dare he disrespect the saint? I don't know where this lunatic came from. He's courting death. Look, Saint Hutu is about to get angry. At this moment, everyone noticed a terrifying scene. Hutu, who was sitting cross-legged on the 7th auspicious cloud, had an extremely cold expression. The reincarnation light around her fluctuated intensely, and an extremely terrifying heavenly path saint aura was spreading out. It's over, it's over. This person is dead for sure. The immortal being of the South Pole muttered in a trembling voice. He looked at Yi Xian, as if he was looking at a dead man. The quasi-saints of various orthodoxies also noticed Hutu's gloomy expression and shook their heads. They lamented that Yi Xian did not know what was good for him, and threw his life away here. Saint, please don't be angry. There's no need for you to personally deal with such an ant. Xian Ming can suppress him alone. Ancestral shaman Xian Ming turned around and bowed to Hutu. He laughed cruelly. How dare you? Suddenly Hutu exploded. A ray of reincarnation light shot towards Yi Xian's direction. The orthodoxies could not bear to look at it directly. Ancestral shaman Xian Ming sneered, as if he could already see Yi Xian dying without a complete corpse. Boom! There was a loud explosion, and everything fell silent. However, what happened next silenced all the orthodoxies. The entire auspicious cloud banquet was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Everyone felt as if they were in a dream, and could not believe what they were seeing. What did they just see? Hutu's reincarnation light sent ancestral shaman Xian Ming flying. Ancestral shaman Xian Ming's blood essence continued to spurt out from his mouth. It even caused ancestral shaman Xian Ming to crash into the auspicious cloud banquet with an earth-shattering crash. What's going on? Ancestral shaman Vast Heaven stared blankly at ancestral shaman Xian Ming's body that was bathed in blood. He then turned around and looked at Saint Hutu, who was sitting cross-legged on the auspicious cloud. He had yet to recover from this strange incident. Hiss! The uproar was endless and extremely shocked. After a full 10 breaths of time, all kinds of gasps were heard. Everyone looked at Hutu with disbelief in their eyes. Hutu! Hutu! Are you crazy? Chapter 908. Grand Sorcerer Tianhao was the first to regain his senses. He roared with a trembling voice and called Hutu by her name. Obviously, he could not accept what Hutu had done. Fortunately, the 12 ancient Grand Sorcerers were of the same origin. Although Hutu looked gloomy, she did not blame Grand Sorcerer Tianhao for calling her by her name. Although the demon clan has some grudges with my clan, they are still one of the living beings in the 3 realms. Today, I held the grand ceremony for the safety of the 3 realms. Since you are the Grand Sorcerer of the Sorcerer tribe, how can you be so obsessed with persecuting fellow Taoists of the demon clan? Is it because I, Hutu, have become a sage that gives you confidence? Hutu scolded coldly, which stunned the Sorcerer tribe. Grand Sorcerer Tianhao was so angry that his face turned red. He looked at Hutu in disbelief. Cough cough. Just when everyone was in a daze, a violent cough was heard. Grand Sorcerer Xianming struggled to get up. His body trembled slightly as he bowed to Hutu and said, I have made a big mistake. Please calm down, sage. Humph. Hutu snorted coldly. Today is the grand ceremony to discuss the strategy of mending the heavens. Let go of the so-called grudges. Otherwise, even though I am a member of the Sorcerer tribe, I will act impartially and will not allow you to bully others. Her righteous words and holy aura were displayed. This was Hutu's attitude, which made the Grand Sorcerer's expression change. They then bowed and retreated. At this moment, all the orthodoxies and quasi-sages looked at this scene in disbelief. They could not believe their eyes, and they could not believe Hutu's words. Ever since Hutu became a sage, the Sorcerer tribe had risen strongly. The demon clan was the first to be suppressed, and the other orthodoxies had to retreat in the face of the Sorcerer tribe. It was all because Hutu supported the Sorcerer tribe. Why did she suddenly become selfless today? Something was wrong. These 3 words appeared in the minds of all the orthodoxies. They were not fools. If they could not see the problem, they would call themselves idiots. It was him. The various orthodoxies and quasi-saints were all shocked. They all gathered their gazes onto Yi Xian, and their eyes were filled with extreme shock. This matter was caused by this mysterious person. Even if Hutu was really selfless, this person ignored the sage, and had no respect for the sage and his words. Not only did he not incur Hutu's anger, but he also made Hutu scold several ancestors of sorcery of the Wu tribe. This was enough to show that this person was not simple. Hiss! Some people gasped in secret, and their expressions changed. Hutu's actions today also proved an extremely terrifying problem. The Hutu saint actually scolded her own people for this person, which meant that this person's background was simply terrifying. At this moment, Hutu furrowed her brows and glared at the ancestral shamans. If it weren't for the presence of various orthodoxies, she would have scolded the ancestral shamans. Previously, she had told the ancestral shamans that a great change was about to happen in the Heaven Mender festival. She also strongly urged them not to cause trouble in the Heaven Mender festival. However, these ancestral shamans still went to provoke Yi Xian. Did this not put her and Yi Xian on opposite sides? Fortunately, she was the one who injured ancestral shaman Xianming. If it was Yi Xian who attacked, ancestral shaman Xianming would not have survived. As a sage, she had watched her own people die. If she did not seek justice from Yi Xian, where would she put her face as a sage? The most dreadful thing for her was that Yi Xian's appearance at the Heaven Mender festival clearly indicated that he wanted to settle the karma of the past with Nuwa, Yuanshi, and the others. A great battle was sure to erupt. She had just become a sage, and did not want to get involved in this dispute. She only wanted to stay out of it. This was the result she wanted. She had lived for countless years, and schemed for countless years to become a sage. She cherished her position very much. If Yi Xian didn't have a trump card, how could he dare to show up at the Heaven Mender festival? Moreover, Don't forget that the Grand Master of Heaven was on good terms with Yi Xian. This heaven-mending gathering was already out of her control, so she could only restrain the shaman clan and not have any conflicts with Yi Xian. Fellow Taoist, please don't blame us. Our shaman tribe might be hot-tempered, but we are not unreasonable. Huda smiled kindly at Yi Xian, hinting that Yi Xian and the shaman tribe did not want to get involved in this dispute. Xian Ming, why don't you apologize quickly? Huda's expression turned cold as she scolded Yi Xian. Xian Ming ancestral witch's face was filled with shame and anger, but he still bowed to Yi Xian under Huda's aggressive and secret voice transmission. Xian Ming was rude to you before. Please forgive me. Xian Ming ancestral witch apologized angrily, but unfortunately, he did not get any response from Yi Xian. At this moment, a fairy child had already brought a new cloud table for Yi Xian, and Yi Xian sat calmly on it. He naturally understood Huda's meaning, so he nodded slightly to her, and did not say anything. Seeing that Yi Xian did not intend to pursue the matter, Huda sighed and secretly warned the shaman tribe again. No matter what happened later, they were not allowed to get involved. The ancestral witches were not fools. They finally felt that something was wrong. Obviously, even Huda was extremely afraid of this mysterious person. This was not someone they could afford to offend. Silence, silence, and eerie silence. The entire auspicious cloud banquet was extremely quiet. Although Huda tried her best to hide her attitude towards Yi Xian, everyone present was smart enough to see that Huda treated Yi Xian with caution. The orthodoxies were bewildered because they suddenly realized an extremely terrifying thing. Huda was a saint. Besides the other saints, who else in the three realms could make her feel afraid? When everyone thought of this terrifying thing, they looked at Yi Xian with a heavy gaze. A sense of uneasiness grew in their hearts, as if something terrible was going to happen at the Skyminder festival today. Unfortunately, Yi Xian wasn't the slightest bit interested in the thoughts of the various orthodoxies. He continued to sit cross-legged in the middle of the auspicious cloud banquet, while the two great demon emperors sneered as they looked around at the various orthodoxies. From time to time, they would fill Yi Xian's wine, and their faces were brimming with excitement. Rumble! Thousands of auspicious clouds, and the heavenly Tao's sacred light filled the auspicious cloud banquet. Just as the auspicious cloud banquet fell into a strange atmosphere, the heavens and the earth began to flicker. A few majestic figures were walking towards the auspicious cloud banquet from the edge of the starry sky. In the vast expanse of time, the saint's aura rumbled. Golden rain fell from the sky, and lotuses bloomed in the void. These were the signs of the saint's arrival. The orthodoxies retracted their gazes from Yi Xian, and hurriedly got up to welcome the arrival of the saints. Who dares to anger junior sister Hutu? How dare you provoke her personally? A chuckle came from the edge of the starry sky. Before the person arrived, the voice had already resounded throughout the auspicious cloud banquet. A graceful and elegant figure slowly walked out from the depths of the starry sky. It was one of the seven saints, Queen Niwa. Chapter 909. Niwa was dressed in a golden robe, with thousands of auspicious clouds beneath her feet. She was a heavenly sage, looking at Hutu with a smile. Senior sister Niwa. Niwa's arrival made Huda hold her breath. She glanced at Yi Xian, and smiled at Niwa as a form of greeting. Hutu was a shrewd person, but she kept a distance from Niwa. After all, she did not know what would happen today. She just wanted to stay out of it, and not get involved in the dispute between the sages. Niwa was not surprised by Huta's indifferent attitude. However, she was a little confused by the atmosphere of the auspicious cloud banquet. She had sensed a burst of saint energy from Hutu, but she did not explain, so she did not ask further. Greetings, Your Highness Niwa. All the orthodoxies bowed and greeted them respectfully. However, when Niwa looked at the monster tribe, a look of displeasure flashed across her eyes. At this moment, the two monster tribe emperors did not get up. Thousands of monsters stood still. Niwa did not care about the lives of the monster tribe, which made the ancient demon court unhappy. Niwa knew what the two monster tribe emperors were thinking. Although she was displeased, she felt a little guilty, and did not punish the monster tribe. However, when Niwa saw the two monster tribe emperors sitting around Yi Xian, a look of surprise flashed across Niwa's eyes. She could not sense Yi Xian's aura and cultivation base, which made her stare at Yi Xian. Niwa noticed Yi Xian at first glance. Her Dharma eyes of heaven and earth rotated, trying to see Yi Xian's real body. However, Yi Xian only nodded at her as if they were old friends. This made Niwa even more surprised. Just as Niwa wanted to take a closer look at Yi Xian, several majestic figures arrived at the Heavenmender festival. They were the other sages. Niwa retracted her gaze from Yi Xian. Amitba. The two sages of the west chanted, and sat on two auspicious clouds with benevolent smiles on their faces. Yuanshi Tianzuan's Tao light was hazy, as if he was the incarnation of the Tao. He also sat cross-legged on an auspicious cloud, and received greetings from the orthodoxies. Tongtian calmly appeared on a cloud. His eyes were closed, and he didn't say a word. It was as if nothing could disturb his mind. Clearly, Tongtian was only here to give face to Hutu. He didn't want to participate in anything else, because Tongtian no longer had the will to fight. After all, Hutu had become a sage while he was alone. It was impossible for him to settle the karma of his ascension with the other sages. This wasn't to say that Tongtian was depressed. It was just that he had placed all his hopes on Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian had disappointed him deeply. Tongtian only wanted to protect the Jie branch, and not think about anything else in the future. The arrival of the 6 sages caused the sacred light of the heavenly Tao to surround the area. The universal laws circulated while the spirit energy in the world boiled. Unfortunately, there were originally 7 sages in the world, but only 6 of them had come. Moreover, the leader of the 3 pure ones, the Lord of Tao and Virtue, was still not present. It wasn't that Hutu didn't invite Dao Tianzuan. It was just that Dao Tianzuan and Lao Tzu's whereabouts were a mystery. His 8 Visions Palace was nowhere to be found. None of the sages could find Lao Tzu. Dao Tianzuan and Lao Tzu had never appeared in this world after the Divine Investiture War. The 6 sages sat cross-legged on the auspicious clouds. Their heavenly Tao aura permeated and silenced the entire banquet. Today, I called for the Heavenmender festival in hopes of gathering the power of all living beings to mend the firmament. This is also a great merit for all living beings in the 3 worlds. Hutu sat cross-legged amidst the sacred light of reincarnation. Her expression was one of compassion, as she spoke in a dignified manner. You are all living beings in the 3 worlds. Do you have a good plan to mend the heavens? Yuanshi Tianzuan asked in a dignified manner. None of the orthodoxies dared to refuse a sage's question. The Chan sect has a method called the primordial light art. Combined with the Kongtong seal, it can seal off billions of miles of space. Immortal Wang of the South Pole hurriedly stepped forward and reported to the 6 sages with a bow. Suddenly, the Grand Master of Heaven slowly opened his eyes, and a cold snort came from his mouth. He said, "A mere Kongtong seal is only a postnatal treasure. Even if the Taoist's primordial light technique is extraordinary, how can it carry out the plan of mending the heavens?" Yuanshi Tianzuan blushed at Tongtian's words. He glared fiercely at Immortal Wang of the South Pole, shocking the latter and causing him to panic. Clearly, the Immortal Wang of the South Pole's plan to mend the heavens was nothing more than a joke. The combination of the Kongtong seal and the essence light technique was indeed powerful. But this was only an immortal's technique. How terrifying was the hole in the sky? Who knew how many meteors had fallen from the sky? How could a mere Kongtong seal and the essence light technique mend the hole in the sky? Yuanshi Tianzuan sneered at Tongtian's rebuke. "Junior brother Tongtian, do you have a good plan?" "No," the sect leader of Tongtian said concisely and coldly. Then he closed his eyes again. This made the primeval Lord of Heaven's eyes turn cold. He snorted coldly and stopped the stalemate with the sect leader of Tongtian. "Fellow Taoist Jin Yuan, you are the ancestor of Earth Immortals, and the Earth Book is one of the 3 great books of heaven and earth. Do you have a good plan?" Taoist Juanti looked up at Jin Yuanzi. Although great immortal Zhen Yuan was only in the realm of sage-to-be, his methods were extraordinary. His sleeve was all-encompassing. The ginseng fruit tree was the spiritual root of heaven and earth. And the Earth Book was unprecedented. Even a saint could not ignore him. Although the Earth Book controls the general trend of heaven and earth, it is useless for the method to mend the heavens. I really can't do anything. Zheng Yuanzi smiled bitterly, and did not arrogantly take out the so-called good plan to mend the heavens. As the saying goes, the one who tied the bell should untie it. Back then, the battle between the two celestial court broke through hundreds of millions of miles of the sky. I wonder if the ancient demon court has a good plan to mend the heavens? Ancestral Witch Xianming looked directly at the two demon emperors and asked. As Ancestral Witch Xianming spoke, all the orthodoxies looked at the two demon emperors. Saint He's expression changed slightly. She did not expect that Ancestral Witch Xianming would still secretly target the demon tribe after she had warned the Wu tribe. This made He angry, but she could not show it. After all, there were several saints present, and she did not want to show any abnormality. Dong Huang, you are the demon emperor. Do you have a method to mend the heavens? Yuanshi Tianzuan asked bluntly. Obviously, at this moment, the demon tribe had become the target of public criticism. After all, this catastrophe was caused by the two celestial court. Dong Huang Tai had an unshirkable responsibility. Ancestral Witch Xianming had just pointed the spearhead at the demon tribe, which led to the current situation. The operation of the way of heaven led to the birth of infinite calamity. Although the heavens were broken through hundreds of millions of miles, because of the demon tribe, I would like to ask all the saints here. In the past, when the saints fought in the great God investiture tribulation, the untainted land was broken and turned into the three realms. Have the saints combined the three realms into one and turned it back into the untainted land? Dong Huang Tai looked at the six great sages, neither arrogant nor humble, with a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. Chapter 9:10. Dong Huang Tai deserved to be the great emperor of the demon clan. He did not answer Yuanshi Tianzuan's question directly. Instead, he turned to the sages and talked about the past of the apatheicized war. After all, the war between the apatheicized sects in the past had caused the four sages to carry out a destructive war, breaking the untainted land into three realms. At this moment, the situation of the untainted land was very similar to that of the demon clan. Dong Huang's answer also made the sages speechless. Even Tong Tian, who was resting with his eyes closed, held his breath. You have a sharp tongue. I didn't expect that Dong Huang Tai is also a man of glib tongue. Ancestral sorcerer Xianming sneered. Shut up. Is this the place for you to speak? Suddenly He scolded. She did not expect that ancestral sorcerer Xianming would be so reckless to get involved in the dispute that was about to start. Sages, please calm down. I was wrong. Ancestral sorcerer Xianming's expression changed. He had already felt the anger of He, which also made him embarrassed. However, he still bowed and admitted his mistake. Finally, he shut up and returned to the camp of the Wu tribe. The sages were slightly stunned when He scolded Xianming. They were confused. Since He became a sage, she had been supporting the Wu tribe to suppress the demon clan. Why did she change her temper today and scold ancestral sorcerer Xianming instead? Before the sages could figure out the reason, He also knew that she showed a strange expression. She hurriedly pretended to be calm and looked at Niwa with a smile on her face. She said, Senior sister, you once repaired the sky in the past and saved hundreds of millions of creatures. I wonder if you can repair the sky again. As He's words fell, everyone's eyes were focused on Niwa. Obviously, only Niwa had repaired the sky. It seemed that this matter could only be done by sage Niwa. Niwa was completely able to sense the gazes and anticipation of everyone. However, Niwa shook her head lightly and sighed. Junior sister He, you must be joking. All those years ago, I was able to mend the heavens because of the five-colored divine rock. But I don't possess such a divine treasure of the heavens and the earth anymore. Otherwise, how could I watch as the living beings of the three dimensions suffer a calamity? As Niwa's words fell, the various orthodoxies sighed in disappointment. Although they already knew that Niwa did not have the five-colored divine stone, they still placed their hopes on Niwa. Now that Niwa was powerless, The various orthodoxies could not come up with a solution to mend the heavens. Time slowly passed. All the orthodoxies offered their strategies to mend the heavens, but the sages frowned. It was obvious that the strategies offered by these orthodoxies were completely useless. At this moment, Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the middle of the auspicious cloud banquet. From time to time, he would raise his wine cup and drink by himself. He did not seem to have any interest in the so-called heaven-mending grand banquet. Instead, he kept staring at the sages through his mask. The heavenly Tao's three tribulations were comparable to the sages. This was an extremely subtle sensing of qi. It was also Yi Xian's way of measuring the difference between himself and the six sages. The immortal scripture was indeed an otherworldly technique. Even the six sages did not notice that Yi Xian was observing them. Half a day later, Yi Xian came to a conclusion. The six sages, Tong Tian and Yuanshi Tianzuan, were on par with each other in terms of cultivation. The two sages of the West were ranked behind them, while Niwa was ranked fifth. Although Huta was also a sage, she was at the bottom of the six sages. Yi Xian sensed that he was slightly weaker than Yuanshi Tianzuan and Tong Tian. His cultivation should be on par with the two sages of the West, but he was slightly stronger than Niwa. Of course, this was only Yi Xian's perception of cultivation. It did not count as a trump card. However, it was enough for Yi Xian to understand the six sages' cultivation levels. Junior brothers and sisters, we've gathered here today. Even if we don't have the five-colored divine stone, the six of us should be able to mend the heavens with our cultivation levels. Why don't we each use our own sage techniques and see if we can mend the heavens? Yuanshi Tianzuan said in a low voice. I was thinking the same thing. Niwa nodded in agreement. Great. The two sages of the West put their palms together and chanted the merciful Buddha's name. Although Tong Tian was not on good terms with the sages, the matter of mending the heavens was related to the three realms. His Jia sect was also in the three realms. Naturally, he would not refute this suggestion. I have the sacred light of samsara. It can suppress the laws of heaven and earth. I'll support you. Huda spoke in a dignified manner. The sacred light of samsara erupted, and the starry sky within hundreds of millions of miles froze. The sage's aura that erupted was too terrifying. The sacred light of samsara seemed to have frozen the entire starry sky. Come. Yuanshi Tianzuan stretched out his hand and beckoned. The Panga banner appeared. He took a step forward and directly entered the vast starry sky. The Panga banner rumbled and shook, pouring down the sacred light of the heavenly path towards the lower realm. It directly turned into a light screen that covered the sky and sealed the broken heavens for hundreds of millions of miles. Amitabha, the 10,000 Dharma kingdom, the Buddha palm that covered the sky, and the two sages of the West summoned large stars. The heaven-burning Buddha fire refined these large stars into the origin of heaven and earth, and directly integrated them into the broken heavens. Break! Tong Tian was the most direct. He controlled the four immortal extermination swords, and cultivated the saint energy of slaughter. The vast sea of stars that fell towards the lower realm was directly slashed into dust by his sword, giving the sages time to repair the heavens. Condense! Niwa formed a seal with both hands. This was the seal of heaven patching, which was also created by her in the past. It was a supreme sage technique that was compatible with the five-colored divine stone. However, she did not have the five-colored divine stone in her hands today. She did not know if this seal could repair the heavens. Rumble! The six sages displayed their sage techniques. The various orthodoxies in the auspicious cloud banquet watched in awe. The broken heavens for hundreds of millions of miles were repaired. The blazing sacred light of the heavenly path filled the air, as if it was really going to repair the broken heavens and eliminate this catastrophe. At this moment, Yi Xian was as steady as a rock. He looked at the six sages from afar, and a strange smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. What a joke! The origin of chaos is the reason why the heavens and earth can be created. How can a mere sage technique repair the heavens? Yi Xian's voice was not loud. However, there were no weaklings in the auspicious cloud banquet. Naturally, everyone heard what he said. This also made the various orthodoxies look at Yi Xian in surprise. Their eyes were filled with uncertainty. Boom! It was as if chaotic thunder was exploding, as if the sky was collapsing. The sky that had just been repaired began to crack like a spiderweb. With an earth-shattering boom, the sky that had just been repaired exploded, and the meteors from outer space began to fall toward the lower world like they were rioting. How could this be? This scene shocked the various orthodoxies. None of them had expected that even the combined efforts of the 6 great sages would not be able to mend the heavens. Everyone's eyes were filled with disappointment. Look, what's that? Suddenly, just when everyone was feeling disappointed, someone screamed. This also made the various forces look towards the broken heavens. Rumble! The starry sky trembled, and the sea of stars turned upside down. In the broken heavens, a majestic divine mountain stood outside the 33rd heaven. The vast and boundless body of the mountain was emitting endless divine light. 33 immortal lights surrounded the divine mountain. One could faintly see the silhouettes of people intertwining with each other. There was also the sound of the 9 heavens war drum beating. Chapter 9:11. Thump, thump, thump. Thump, 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 thump. The 9 heavens rumbled as war drums shook the heavens. The boundless Mount Buzhou shone with boundless divine light in outer space, as soul-stirring battle cries reverberated throughout the entire starry sky. This is Mount Buzhou? What's going on? Didn't the Mount Buzhou collapse? How could it appear here? The ancestral sorcerers exclaimed in shock. They were all too familiar with Mount Buzhou, because Zhurong and Gonggong had fought in the past and Gonggong had knocked down Mount Buzhou in a fit of rage. Since then, the primeval divine mountain had ceased to exist in the world. However, none of them had expected that the primeval divine mountain would reappear in the world and appear outside the 33rd heaven. Look, they're the remnants of the celestial court. The immortal hermit of the South Pole recognized the members of the celestial court at a glance and exclaimed in shock. He could not believe that these remnants of the celestial court would dare to appear in outer space. Rumble! Mount Buzhou was too vast. It carried the 33rd heaven of the celestial court as it headed toward the banquet of auspicious clouds. Its vast body was like a vast star that was radiating extremely brilliant light. In just a short span of a dozen breaths, Mount Buzhou finally stopped moving. It faced off against the banquet of auspicious clouds in the luminous starry sky. Countless figures were also walking out of Mount Buzhou. Taisheng Laojun wore a purple-gold bagua robe and held a horsetail whisk with a smile on his face. Beside him was the Empyrean fairy, accompanied by the 28 mansions of the heavenly cycle, 108 stars of the heavenly dipper, and earthly fiend constellations spread out in all directions of the starry sky. Thump, thump, thump. The 9 heavens war drums were beating, and the thunder of slaughter was exploding. The Chaos Empyrean formation covered the entire Mount Buzhou. When this scene appeared in everyone's eyes, the sage-to-be of various orthodoxies were shocked and bewildered. Had these remnants of the celestial court gone mad? 6 sages were present. What were these remnants of the celestial court trying to do? How dare they act rashly in front of the sages? The starry sky was silent. Everything was quiet. Everyone had different thoughts. No one knew why these remnants of the celestial court dared to appear outside the 33rd heaven. At this moment, the 6 saints had different expressions on their faces. Niwa and Yuanshi's faces were gloomy. They were strolling through the starry sky towards the auspicious cloud banquet. They sat cross-legged on the auspicious cloud and looked towards the Buzhou divine mountain. The 2 saints of the west frowned. Their eyes flickered with confusion. However, they returned to their cloud and waited for the development of the situation. Tongtian was astonished. Of course, he recognized Yi Xian and his other subjects. His eyes flickered, and no one knew what he was thinking. Only Huta remained calm, as if she was not surprised by the arrival of the celestial court. After all, Yi Xian was present at the auspicious cloud banquet, so the arrival of the celestial court was not surprising. Dregs of the celestial court, how dare you barge into the Skyminder conference? The immortal elder of the South Pole shouted angrily, and called the immortals of the sect of enlightenment to rise. The immortal light that filled the sky was extremely dazzling, and they confronted the 33rd celestial court in the starry sky. Dong Huang, you are the emperor of the demon race. Why don't you kill all the dregs of the celestial court? Nuwa said coldly. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent as she looked at the members of the celestial court. However, she was a saint after all, so it was not appropriate for her to take action personally. Otherwise, she would be labeled as a bully. Dong Huang Tai and the others would have to deal with this kind of situation. After all, the two celestial court had long been enemies. Something strange happened. Dong Huang Tai and Emperor Jun sat cross-legged without moving. The thousands of demons sneered. They had disobeyed Nuwa's decree and had no intention of getting up. This was a blatant slap to the face. It was a blatant slap to the face. This was going against the will of the saints. The various orthodoxies looked at Dong Huang Tai and the others in shock. They wondered where the ancient demon court got the courage to go against Nuwa's decree. Nuwa's expression changed. She suddenly had a bad feeling. Dong Huang Tai dared to disobey her decree. Obviously something big must have happened. Junior sister Nuwa, something is wrong. Yuanshi Tianzuan was very shrewd. He pinched his fingers and calculated something quickly. However, all he got was a fog. Heaven's will did not appear in his mind at all. Without Yuanshi Tianzuan pointing it out, Nuwa already had a bad feeling. Her saint heart was trembling slightly. A feeling of panic grew in her heart. This was something that had never happened before. Nuwa's expression was also uncertain. She could not figure out what the problem was. Karma tribulation. How is this possible? Suddenly, a trembling roar was heard. The two saints of the West's Buddha light was in a mess. They looked up at the bright starry sky and saw that the boundless starry sky had dimmed. The stars that were rotating continuously were also slightly stagnant. The laws of heaven and earth were gradually disintegrating. The two saints of the West knew the secrets of heaven and knew their own bodies. They were extremely sensitive to the touch of heaven and earth. Although the two of them could not predict what was going to happen, the trembling of the saints' hearts gave them a sense of horror. Karma tribulation? Nuwa's expression abruptly changed. She abruptly turned to look at the divine mountain of Buzhou. Her eyebrows twitched violently, and the heavenly Tao holy light that had been revolving around her began to produce a wisp of black mist. How is this possible? Nuwa could no longer control the shock in her heart. When she discovered the black fog that was born from the holy light, she became extremely flustered. The old legend. The saints were immortal. As long as the heavenly path did not collapse, the saints would not die. However, this saying was not absolute. The power of karma was the saints' Achilles' heel. The power of karma surpassed the heavenly path. It was not controlled by the heavenly path. Even the saints were most afraid of being tainted by karma. Nuwa produced a trace of black fog. This was the manifestation of the power of karma. Junior sister Nuwa, who did you form such a huge karma with? Yuanshi Tianzuan roared in horror. Yi Xian. It's him. He's right here. Nuwa gradually calmed down as cold words came out of her mouth. Other than Yi Xian, who else could have formed this life and death karma with her? Welcome, Heavenly Emperor. Suddenly the starry sky shook. The divine mountain of Buzhou swayed. Millions of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals let out a deafening roar. Rumble. Tongtian's earth-shattering golden light flickered in the starry sky. A heavenly emperor's throne appeared in the vast starry sky. What happened next completely shocked the six great saints and the other orthodoxies. A figure rose from the auspicious cloud banquet. He was dressed in black and wore a ghost mask that looked like he was crying. At this moment, he stepped into the sky and walked towards the starry sky. As he walked in the starry sky, the ghost mask gradually disappeared. When Yi Xian ascended to the heavenly emperor's throne, he looked down at everyone in the starry sky. His expression was neither sad nor happy. Wow! When Yi Xian revealed his true appearance, the orthodoxies were in an uproar. They all looked at him in horror. An extremely oppressive atmosphere grew. Yi Xian, it really is you. Today, you will die without a burial place. Chapter 9:12. Nuwa stood up angrily. Her heavenly Tao holy light swept across the starry sky. When she waved her slender hand, the boundless starry sky rumbled. The heavenly Tao holy might locked onto Yi Xian. She flicked her finger angrily, and a saint technique surged toward Yi Xian. It even shattered a large number of stars, fully displaying the terrifying might of a heavenly Tao saint. Be careful. Tongtian's expression changed drastically. He wanted to help Yi Xian block this attack, but Nua's attack was too fast. At this moment, he had no time to save Yi Xian. Bang! The starry sky exploded, and the stars shattered. Just when everyone thought that Yi Xian would die from Nua's attack, Yi Xian stretched out his palm. The starry sky within 100 million miles became unstable. The condensed giant palm that covered the sky shattered Nua's saint technique. How is this possible? This scene made Yuanshi Tianzuan roar in shock. The two saints of the West's expressions changed drastically. They couldn't believe their eyes. However, before the saints could recover from their shock, Yi Xian's giant palm that covered the sky did not weaken. It smashed down on Nua. The starry sky within 100 million miles instantly collapsed, proving how terrifying Yi Xian's world-destroying attack was. Damn it! Faced with Yi Xian's world-destroying attack, Nua let out an indignant roar. Her heavenly Tao holy light soared into the sky. Her slender hands formed a saint technique, forming a heaven-severing sword that met Yi Xian's attack. Kacha! A loud explosion that shattered the starry sky rang out. Dozens of stars turned to dust. The surging sea of stars evaporated. Nua's heaven-severing sword shattered. The giant palm that covered the sky landed on Nua's body, sending her flying hundreds of millions of miles away. Silence, silence, dead silence. When this scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes, everyone felt as if they had fallen into a nightmare that they could not wake up from. They could not believe what they were seeing. The heavenly Tao saint Nua was sent flying by a single attack. This was simply unheard of. It was even more fantastical. He became a saint. He actually became a saint. The two saints of the West muttered to themselves. They looked at Yi Xian with extreme horror. Impossible. Suddenly, Yuanshi Tianzuan's expression went crazy. He angrily refuted the two saints of the West's words. Saints of the saints, heaven's saint. 7 saints of the saints are saints. Now, 7 saints of the saints are. How can Yi Xian become a saint? The primeval Lord of Heaven scolded coldly. However, if one listened carefully, one would find that there was a trace of tremor in his voice. Obviously, he was not as firm as he appeared. Tong Tian let out a wild laugh. His essence, qi, and spirit had undergone an earth-shattering change. How foolish. The 7 saints of the heavens saint are only talking about becoming a saint through merit. Is it impossible for Yi Daoyu to become a saint through merit? Tong Tian laughed loudly. He was in an indescribably good mood. He had always known that Yi Xian walked the path of Tao through strength. However, he was not optimistic about the path that Yi Xian walked. Even when He became a saint, Tong Tian was disappointed in Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian's appearance today gave Tong Tian a huge surprise. Although Yi Xian did not have the heavenly Tao saint aura, he was able to send Nua flying for hundreds of millions of miles. This was enough to prove that Yi Xian's cultivation was not weaker than that of a saint. How could this not excite Tong Tian? The words of the saints caused the faces of the various orthodoxies to turn pale. Everyone looked at Yi Xian with extremely complicated expressions. No one would have thought that when the 7 saints were still alive, Yi Xian would actually be able to achieve the Tao in another way. This was simply unimaginable. Pangu opened the heavens and Hongjun passed down the Tao. Since the birth of the heavens and earth, everyone had been led into a misconception that there were only 7 saints in the heavens and earth. Even those who had always been in the sage-to-be realm fell into this misconception and coveted the position of the 7th saint. However, all of them had forgotten that there were only 7 saints through merit. Didn't Tao ancestor Hongjun also become a saint after severing the 3 corpses? He was an existence that surpassed the 7 saints. It was no wonder that everyone fell into this misconception. It was simply too difficult to become a saint. It was so difficult that it was impossible to achieve. Throughout history, other than Tao ancestor Hongjun severing the 3 corpses to become a saint, No one else had been able to become a saint through their own efforts. This had become a taboo, causing everyone to mistakenly believe that there was only one way to become a saint through merit. However, Yi Xian's appearance today finally woke everyone up. Yi Xian had broken through this taboo and became a saint through his own efforts. This also gave some of the sage-to-be saints a glimmer of hope. Yi Daoyu, did you succeed in severing the 3 corpses? Tang Tian had even changed the way he addressed Yi Xian. He directly regarded Yi Xian as someone of the same generation as him, and even asked the question in his heart. It was obvious that the Grand Master of Heaven believed that Yi Xian must have succeeded in severing the 3 corpses. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to possess the cultivation of a saint. The Grand Master of Heaven didn't believe in using strength to prove his Tao, because he knew how difficult it was to do so. Yi Xian slowly shook his head in response to Tong Tian's question. This was because he had not become a saint at all. To be exact, he was only a half-saint. However, he had passed through the 3 tribulations of the heavenly Tao to have the cultivation of a saint. His cultivation was too complicated, and he could not explain it to Tang Tian in a short time. Tang Tian also seemed to understand that this was not the time to chat, and did not continue to ask. He only looked at Yi Xian with an extremely excited gaze. Severing the 3 corpses? You actually did it. Yuan Shi Tianzuan said in horror. He looked at Yi Xian with an extremely fearful gaze. Since ancient times, only Hongjun Tao ancestor had succeeded in severing the 3 corpses. Even the head of the 3 pure ones, Dao Tianzuan and Lao Tzu, only managed to sever 2 corpses. When facing the 3rd corpse, they finally gave up, and could only change to becoming a saint through virtue. Yuan Shi Tianzuan once also wanted to take the path of severing the 3 corpses to become a saint. However, in the end, he found that this path was too difficult, and had a slim chance of survival. This also made him feel at ease, and changed to becoming a saint through virtue. At this moment, Yuan Shi Tianzuan's body and mind were trembling. This was because he had also formed a karma with Yi Xian. Although it was not as terrible as Nuwa's, Yi Xian would definitely settle the score with him. Hiss! The sound of cold air being sucked in could be heard continuously. Whether it was the quasi-saints between heaven and earth, or the people of various orthodoxies, they all looked at Yi Xian in awe. They all thought that Yi Xian had succeeded in severing the 3 corpses, and became a saint after Hongjun Tao ancestor. Unfortunately, they did not know that Yi Xian had not become a saint at all. The so-called severing of the 3 corpses had nothing to do with him. However, he did not bother to explain, because he appeared here today to settle the karma with the saints. More importantly, he wanted to truly unify the 3 realms of heaven, earth and man. Yi Xian, you deserve to die. Rumble. Just as everyone was shocked speechless, they saw a riot in the depths of the starry sky. Nuwa was returning. The heavenly Tao's holy light that could suppress all things turned the stars around her into ashes. This proved how furious Nuwa was. Chapter 913. Rumble. The river of stars formed into a rope that stretched across the sky. Before Nuwa even arrived, she had already unleashed her boundless art, condensing the starlight within billions of miles, and turning it into a sky-splitting rope that swept toward Yi Xian. The starry sky was torn apart, and all living things were destroyed. Nuwa's furious attack was too terrifying, causing the quasi-saints of various orthodoxies to gasp in shock. Boom! In the starry sky, Yi Xian stood up indifferently from the celestial emperor's throne. He didn't seem to make any movements, but his 5 fingers stretched out toward the starry sky. The starry sky seemed to freeze for billions of miles. Following the sound of an explosion that shook the starry sky, Nuwa's great art was destroyed once again. Petty tricks. Bitch, do you really think I'm still the same weakling you bullied in the past? Yi Xian said coldly, looking at Nuwa with a cruel gaze. Yi Xian, I've really underestimated you. I regret not killing you back then. Otherwise, how could I have let you act so presumptuously in front of me today? Nuwa's expression was cold. She finally realized that Yi Xian's cultivation was no longer weaker than hers. This calmed her down from her extreme anger, and words of regret came from her mouth. Haha, Yi Xian laughed. He laughed very proudly and arrogantly. His rumbling laughter reverberated through billions of miles of starry sky, causing the sea of stars in all directions to churn violently. He had the right to be complacent, and he had the qualifications to be complacent. He finally didn't have to be careful, and he finally had the ability to contend against a saint. There's no medicine for regret in this world. Today, I'll consign you to eternal damnation, you bitch. You humiliated me many times in the past, and almost caused me to die in Yua's palace. In the battle between the two great celestial courts, you killed my apprentice niece Xueji, and destroyed my celestial court's orthodoxy. You and I have already formed the karma of life and death. Today is the day to settle it. Yi Xian stood up from the celestial emperor's throne. Black holy light swirled around him, and the starry sky for billions of miles flickered in and out of existence. Although there was no heavenly Tao's saintly might, the great terror that was born between life and death invaded everyone's hearts. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to be mentioned in the same breath as this saint? Nua's face was cold as she shouted at Yi Xian angrily. I am a heavenly saint, the mother of the demon race, and I have the merit of mending the heavens. You, on the other hand, are merely an evil demon. So what if you have a cultivation comparable to us saints? In the end, you will only be suppressed by us saints. Heavenly Tao's saintly might, golden light of merit. Nua's voice reverberated in the three realms. Wisps of terrifying heavenly Tao's saintly light permeated the air. Obviously, she was going to have a bloody battle with Yi Xian. Mother of the demon race? Yi Xian sneered, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Billions of demon race heed my command. Suddenly, just as Yi Xian and Nua were confronting each other in the starry sky, a cold voice rang out in the auspicious cloud banquet. Everyone turned to look at the source of the voice in surprise. Rumble! Demonic light shot up into the sky like a rolling tide. The two demon emperors rose into the sky, and a golden decree appeared in Donghuang Tai's hand. Demonic mirror of heaven and earth, open! Emperor Jun waved his hand, and threw out an ancient bronze mirror. The ancient mirror expanded rapidly in the starry sky, until it was tens of thousands of feet wide. The demonic mirror of heaven and earth was the most precious treasure of the demon race. The mirror had no other function, but it could summon billions of demon race members. Anyone with demon race blood could feel the call of the demonic mirror of heaven and earth. Today, in the name of Donghuang Tai, the great emperor of the demon race, I issue a decree. Although Nua is a member of the demon race, she ignored us after becoming a saint. She allowed the sorcerer tribe to harm us without doing anything. Today, Nua's name will be removed from the demon race. Heaven and earth can bear witness. Donghuang Tai threw out the decree. Demonic characters filled the sky and shot into the demonic mirror of heaven and earth. His voice appeared in the minds of billions of demon race members in the three realms. They also saw the scene of Yi Xian and Nua confronting each other in the starry sky. The ancient demon court is the ancestral land of the demon race. After a discussion between the two demon emperors and the ancient demon race, the ancient demon court and the 33 layers of celestial court will be merged into one. From now on, billions of demon race members will worship Yi Xian as the celestial emperor of the demon race. Emperor Jun's majestic voice was heard by billions of demon race members. Rumble! The starry sky shook, and the demon race's roar shook the heavens. The two celestial emperors announced to the three realms that the vast ancient demon court had come from the lower world. It directly entered the 33 layers of heaven and descended on Mount Buzhou. The 10,000 demons howled into the sky as demonic light filled the sky. The 10,000 ancient demons roared towards the sky in the demon court. The two heavenly courts had finally merged into one today. From today onwards, there would only be one heavenly court in the world, and only Yi Xian could bear the title of heavenly emperor. Good, good, good. Such a scene made Nua's face turn red. She looked at the two demon emperors with red eyes. Her eyes flashed with terrifying killing intent. Nua had never thought that the two demon emperors would betray her. They even dared to expel her from the demon race. This made her extremely ashamed and angry. However, this was not the end of it. What happened next not only stunned Nuwa on the spot, but also made the other sages extremely gloomy. Rumble! Light whistled and ghosts cried. A dark portal opened in the starry sky. Rays of light shot out from the portal and covered thousands of miles of the starry sky in the blink of an eye. Nether River Patriarch, and Demon Master Kuimping strolled over. Behind them were the 10 kings of hell and countless nether soldiers. On the other side, the sky was filled with the light of Buddha and Demon. The spirit mountain that had not fallen since ancient times appeared quietly. With Kong Xian as the leader, Skyless Buddha, and many other bodhisattvas and Buddhas appeared in the starry sky. The underworld is willing to be loyal to Yi Tiandi. The spirited mountain will obey the will of the celestial emperor. Nether River Patriarch and Skyless Buddha came laughing and bowed to Yi Xian. Dipankara, Duobao, what's going on? The 2 saints of the west were livid. They looked at Duobao Rulai and Dipankara in Spirited Mountain, and said furiously. Unfortunately, Duobao Rulai and Dipankara were pale. They didn't dare to look at the 2 saints of the west, let alone answer their questions. The 10 kings of hell? Huda's face was gloomy. She looked at the 10 kings of hell, but she gradually calmed down, as if she had guessed everything. Apparently, Kuimping had been ordered to go to the underworld to inform Nether River Patriarch of Yi Xian's return. According to Yi Xian's instructions, Nether River Patriarch and others quickly unified the underworld. During this time, Nether River even asked Nether River Patriarch for help. In just a few decades, the underworld was under their control. Needless to say, Spirited Mountain of the West. In the past, Yi Xian had turned into Qingming Buddha and subdued the demon in Juyo Tower. Skyless was a peak quasi-saint. Duobao Rulai and Dipankara were also planted with divine blood threads by Yi Xian. The so-called bodhisattvas and Buddhas were also controlled by Yi Xian. This time Kong Xian went to Spirited Mountain and easily subdued it. Chapter 9:14. The spiritual mountain lineage was founded by the 2 Western sages, and the underworld was secretly controlled by Hutu. Yi Xian could be said to be directly related to the interests of the 3 sages, which made their expressions extremely ugly. As for the ancient demon court, Nuwa was no longer expelled from the demon race. At this moment, she wanted nothing more than to kill the 2 demon emperors, so that she could vent the hatred in her heart. Yi Xian, I have to say that you're very bold. You actually want to truly unify the 3 realms? Nuwa scolded coldly, looking at Yi Xian with a gloomy gaze. I'm the master of the 3 realms. How can I unify the 3 realms? Yi Xian smiled strangely, his words full of sarcasm. Unfortunately, you won't be able to sit as the master of the 3 realms for long. Today is the day your soul dissipates. The heavenly Tao's holy aura spread out. Nuwa no longer showed any emotions on her face. She seemed to have entered an extraordinary state. Only the heavenly Tao's holy light surrounded her body. She walked slowly towards Yi Xian, sensing the will of the heavens, fighting to the extreme. Yuan Shi Tianzuan's expression changed. He directly exposed Nuwa's current state. Yi Dao, you be careful. Tong Tian hurriedly reminded. As a saint, Tong Tian knew how terrifying Nuwa's current state was. Interesting. Is this the true terror of a saint? Yi Xian whispered cruelly. He could feel that Nuwa's essence, energy, and spirit had risen to the peak. Her entire body seemed to have merged with the world. It gave him an extreme sense of oppression, and he faintly felt that he could not breathe. The spring wind and rain, the holy light was gentle, and the heavenly Tao's holy aura covered all things. A wisp of golden light surrounded Nuwa's body. Her originally expressionless face now revealed a loving smile. Yi Xian, you will never understand what it means to be a heavenly Tao saint. The heavens and earth are me, and I am the heavens and earth. You are merely a different type of Tao. How can you fight against the entire heavens and earth? Nuwa's voice was unusually gentle, and the smile on her face grew wider and wider. However, her smile contained an indescribable terror. Even the entire luminous starry sky began to fade. Bolts of golden lightning flickered in and out of existence in all directions, shaking the boundless starry sky until it began to crack. We heavenly path sages are not just empty words. Junior sister Nuwa has already merged with the heavens and earth, and has truly displayed the might of a saint. Although Yi Xian has achieved the Tao in another way, he is not recognized by the heavens and earth. Even if he doesn't die today, he will definitely not be a match for junior sister Nuwa. Yuanshi Tianzuan stood proudly, and his words came from his mouth. The dignity of a sage cannot be offended. Let's wait and see. The two sages of the West stood alone. Their faces were calm, but their gazes toward Yi Xian were uncertain. The sage's will is the will of the heavens, and the sage's heart is the will of the heavens. This sage will act on behalf of the heavens and kill you here. Kill. Vast and boundless, the sage's voice was Tong Tian. When Nuwa merged with the heavens and earth, she truly displayed the might of a heavenly Tao saint. She merely pointed a finger at Yi Xian, and an extremely terrifying thing happened. Buzz. The starry sky faded, and all things turned to dust. A golden light grew above Yi Xian's head, and fell toward Yi Xian. It actually turned the space around Yi Xian into a vacuum, and the celestial emperor's throne turned into a wisp of ash. Retreat. Yi Xian's expression changed slightly, and he instantly disappeared from where he was. He appeared in front of Nuwa in an instant, and a terrifying fist came crashing down on Nuwa. Rumble. The starry sky collapsed, and large stars exploded. Yi Xian's fist was too terrifying, and it directly shattered the starry sky. Countless large stars were turned to dust, but Nuwa's body dissipated like a bubble. Yi Xian's attack actually didn't hit her at all. Brute force is unbearably clumsy. You don't understand the might of a sage at all. Suddenly, Nuwa's cold voice came from behind Yi Xian. The heavenly Tao Saint's light that could annihilate all things suddenly drowned Yi Xian, and a slender palm slapped Yi Xian's body. Bang! The attack of a sage was also an attack of the heavens and earth, and it contained indescribable power. It directly sent Yi Xian flying hundreds of millions of kilometers away, and even shattered several large stars. An ant will always be an ant. The so-called way of attaining the Tao is nothing. You're also not a sage who severed 3 corpses. Nuwa stood proudly in the starry sky. Her golden robes fluttered in the astral winds, and her hair danced slightly. The wisp of heavenly Tao Saint's light circled around her body, making her look even more extraordinary. It was impossible to look directly at her. As expected. I was curious before. If this Yi Xian had severed 3 corpses to attain the Tao, he should be able to suppress us in terms of aura. Now it seems that he used some unknown method to forcefully raise his cultivation to the sage realm, but he doesn't know a thing about the methods of a sage. Yuanshi Tianzuan said sarcastically, and the heavy look in his eyes gradually faded away. Yi Xian, you've really tricked this sage. Suddenly, Huda's face turned gloomy. She originally thought that Yi Xian had severed 3 corpses to attain the sage realm, so she naturally wouldn't dare to offend Yi Xian, and wanted to stay out of this matter. However, after hearing Yuanshi Tianzuan's judgment, Huda was filled with hatred. How could she have been fooled by Yi Xian? At this moment, Tong Tian frowned. He never thought that Yi Xian wouldn't know the methods of a sage, and this made him very anxious. Buzz! So close, yet worlds apart, the starry sky turned into a shadow. Yi Xian returned without any injuries, and there wasn't a trace of anger on his face. Instead, he looked calmly at Nuwa. You're actually fine? Nuwa was slightly stunned. Although she had only used 60% of her strength in that attack, it contained the power of heaven and earth. In her opinion, Yi Xian must have been injured. After all, he wasn't a true sage. Come, let me see how capable you are. Yi Xian said calmly, but there was an unfathomable look in his eyes as he looked at Nuwa. No one knew what Yi Xian was thinking. Ignorant child. Nuwa scolded coldly. The heavenly Tao's sacred aura erupted. She pointed her finger at Yi Xian again. This time, she went straight for Yi Xian's glabella. Clearly, she wanted to give Yi Xian a fatal blow. Rumble. The galaxy reversed, and the universe shifted. Nuwa's attack shook heaven and earth and shattered the starry sky. The golden sacred light covered the sky and earth, and instantly locked onto Yi Xian. Celestial Emperor, be careful. Seeing Nuwa's attack, the members of the celestial court cried out in shock. However, Nua's finger attack was even more terrifying than before. Her entire body appeared in front of Yi Xian, and her golden finger was already pointing at Yi Xian's glabella. Yi Xian, go to hell. Nua smiled proudly. She felt that she had overestimated Yi Xian. He couldn't even withstand a single attack from her. She even pointed at Yi Xian's sea of consciousness. Yi Xian would definitely die. Clang! The sound of metal clashing could be heard. Yi Xian's entire body was shaking. A golden light spread out from Yi Xian's glabella. Instantly, Yi Xian's entire body was submerged. The space around the two of them collapsed inch by inch. Cracks appeared in space, and countless stars were swallowed by the cracks. The terrifying scene was simply unbearable. Master, don't, the Empyrean fairy pleaded sorrowfully. Set up the absolute chaos formation. Where are the ancient demons? Set up the heavenly cycle star formation for me. Taishang Laojuan's expression was solemn as he roared at the members of the celestial court. Dong Huangtai immediately took out the bell of chaos and struck out array runes. Clearly, he wanted to set up the absolute chaos formation to save Yi Xian. Damn it! Tong Tian roared with hatred. His 4 immortal slaying swords shot out. Clearly, he was going to slash at Nuwa in the next moment, hoping to save Yi Xian's life. Tong Tian and the rest couldn't be blamed for their reactions. Yi Xian wasn't a heavenly path sage. He was just a different kind of heavenly path sage. He wasn't an immortal existence like a heavenly path sage. Because Yi Xian didn't have the support of the heavenly path, Nuwa's fatal attack might take his life. You're really weak, aren't you? Suddenly a calm voice was heard. It was also this voice that stunned the members of the celestial court. Even the 4 immortal slaying swords that Tong Tian was about to unleash froze. Everyone looked in the direction of Yi Xian. The wind rose. It was the 9 heavens squall. Crack! Thunder moved. It was a wisp of black lightning. Above the starry sky, Nua's face was pale. Her finger that was pointing at Yi Xian was disappearing inch by inch. The terrifying golden light that enveloped Yi Xian's body was quickly dissipating. Wisps of black lightning spread out. Bang! The golden light exploded. Yi Xian slowly walked out of the golden light. Wisps of black lightning surrounded his body. How was he injured at all? At this moment, he was looking at Nuwa with an indifferent expression. The smile on his face became increasingly strange. Is this all you've got, you bitch? Yi Xian muttered in disappointment. His smile disappeared and gradually turned cold. He looked at Nuwa with a cruel and sinister gaze. Chapter 9:15. How could this be? A piercing scream shook everyone's eardrums. Nuwa retreated in horror. Her fair fingers were stained with blood, but the pain from her broken fingers could not calm Nuwa's palpitating heart. The blow just now contained the power of heaven and earth, but Yi Xian was unscathed. This was simply unbelievable to Nuwa. I've surpassed the physical body of the ancestor of sorcerers, and broken the shackles of heaven and earth. Throughout the 3 realms, who can hurt my physical body? The 9 heavens' strong wind was howling, and black thunderbolts were flashing. Yi Xian walked slowly toward Nuwa, and his indifferent and emotionless voice came from all directions. Everyone was shocked and looked at him in horror. Not to mention Nuwa. Even the sages were in an extremely heavy mood. Everyone looked at Yi Xian with fear in their eyes. What a terrifying physical body. Could it be that he has cultivated the Panga true body? Impossible, the Panga true body is just a legend. In this world, other than the 12 ancestors of sorcerers, who can reproduce the Panga true body, who else can cultivate the Panga true body? The saints cried out in surprise. It was only because Yi Xian's physical body was too terrifying that even a single strike from a saint was unable to harm him. Rumble! The stars moved, and all the laws of heaven and earth moved. Under the horrified gazes of the sages, Yi Xian took a step forward and directly tore through the space to appear in front of Nuwa. The physical body fights against heaven and earth, and all the laws can be suppressed. Yi Xian roared cruelly, and the smile on his face was ferocious and terrifying. His body was glowing, which was a kind of chaotic and immeasurable light. Wisps of black thunderbolts crackled on his body, making him look even more majestic. Kneel down before me. Yi Xian swung his fists, as if he was swinging the whole world. The two-fist radiances were like heaven-breaking hammers, smashing toward Nuwa with the power to suppress heaven and earth. Primordial Dipper Technique. In the face of Yi Xian's earth-shattering killing technique, Nuwa's face turned extremely pale. She shouted loudly to boost her courage, and formed a Supreme Saint technique with both hands to condense a protective saint technique, hoping to block Yi Xian's attack. Clang! Yi Xian's fists violently smashed onto Nuwa's jade-white arms. The Primordial Dipper technique exploded, and turned into golden light that filled the sky. Nuwa's entire body fell towards a star below, and a muffled groan came from her mouth. But this was not the end. Yi Xian followed like a shadow. He shuttled between the void and reality, and appeared in front of Nuwa like a maggot. His two fists were as dazzling as the stars in the sky. Black lightning flashed on his fists, as he mercilessly smashed down on Nuwa. How dare you? Nuwa's face turned pale as she angrily rebuked Yi Xian. Her body fell rapidly, and her hands formed thousands of palm shadows to frantically block Yi Xian's attacks. Unfortunately, Nuwa had never expected that Yi Xian's physical body was extremely terrifying. Even a saint would not be able to compete with him in terms of physical body. At this moment, she actually dared to fight against Yi Xian in terms of physical body. This was simply courting death. Clang! 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 Yi Xian's fists were too terrifying. Each of his fists shattered one of Nuwa's great techniques. The terrifying fist radiances flashed with black lightning, and mercilessly bombarded her arms. Crack! The sound of bones breaking was abnormally ear-piercing. Nuwa suffered Yi Xian's brutal and merciless attacks. Her arms were already distorted in an irregular manner. Her arms were actually broken by Yi Xian, and her entire body powerlessly fell towards the planet below. Ah! Nuwa cried out in pain. The pain from her broken arms was simply unbearable. Although she was a saint, she was still a woman. It was just that she was very lucky to have obtained a saint's position. Other than a few saints, she had always been high and mighty. When had she ever fought with anyone in such an intense battle? Not to mention the pain of having her body broken. Bang! The heavens shook and the earth cracked. Nuwa finally fell on a withered planet. However, her arms were already broken, and the golden bones inside were faintly discernible. Kneel before this emperor. The heavens and earth exploded, overbearing and unruly. Before Nuwa could stabilize herself, Yi Xian mysteriously appeared above her. His terrifying fists were eye-piercing, and once again smashed down on Nuwa. Bang! One punch, just one punch, directly landed on Nuwa's cheek. She spat out a mouthful of saint blood. Half of her cheek was already red and swollen, and a tooth caught in the foam of blood fell out. But this was not the end. Buzz! Yi Xian's punch was too terrifying. Not only did it contain his cultivation of the heavenly Tao's three tribulations, but it also contained the terrifying power of his indestructible demon body. Nuwa was sent flying like a shooting star. Chi! Yi Xian shuttled between the void and reality. In an instant he caught up with Nuwa, who had been sent flying. His legs swept out like a whip of heaven and earth, ruthlessly and mercilessly lashing out at Nuwa's head. Bang! This attack was too ferocious. Nuwa spat out another mouthful of saint blood, and she was sent flying again. Her hair was already in a mess, and it was stained with the golden saint blood that she had spat out. Bang bang bang! Like a cluster of stars in the sky, flowing light transformed into shadows. A terrifying scene unfolded, causing the sages to stare blankly at each other. Various orthodoxies even screamed in horror. On that withered star, Nuwa's body was like a rubber ball. She was continuously kicked by Yi Xian, unable to retaliate at all. Thousands of miles of the starry sky constantly intertwined, with the figures of the two of them chasing each other. The eruption of light was even more blinding. No, they were not chasing each other. It was more like a game of torture and killing. Yi Xian seemed to have found a very interesting game. He kept appearing in front of Nuwa, kicking and hitting her like a rubber ball. His expression was cruel and sinister. How is this possible? Seeing Nuwa being tortured like this, Hoodoo had long lost her composure. She screamed in horror, unable to believe what she was seeing. Damn it, junior sister Nuwa was too careless. Yi Xian's physical body is too terrifying. She just had to let Yi Xian get close to her. Otherwise, why would she be humiliated like this? Yuanshi Tianzuan roared hatefully. However, his eyes were filled with dread when he looked at Yi Xian. Suddenly, an earth-shattering sound was heard. Yi Xian was finally bored of this game of torture and killing. His broad feet stomped on Nua's body. The two of them fell like a meteor. Rumble! The withered star rumbled and shook. Nua's body crashed into the surface of the star. Yi Xian's feet were still on her chest. Pooh! Nua spat out a mouthful of golden blood again. Her eyes were in a trance. Her originally luxurious golden robe was now covered with mud. Combined with the blood stains on her body, it could be said that she was in an extremely miserable state. Slut! Today is the day we settle the karma of the past. I want you to never be reincarnated. Yi Xian was cruel and ferocious. He kept his feet on Nuwa, who was in a semi-conscious state. He bent down, stretched out his jade-like hand, and clutched Nua's white jade neck. At this moment, an extremely cruel and ruthless scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Yi Xian had one foot on Nua's chest. He bent down and pinched her neck, pressing her to the ground. He slowly raised his right fist, and a sinister laughter came from Yi Xian's mouth. What is he doing? Huta growled in horror. Unfortunately, before the other saints could answer her question, what happened next made everyone tremble in body and mind. Some of the weak-minded people's knees went soft, and they collapsed to the ground. Chapter 9:16. Bang! The earth trembled, and the starry sky exploded. Yi Xian raised his right fist and smashed it violently onto Nua's face. The sound of her skull breaking was abnormally ear-piercing. Streams of golden blood sprayed onto Yi Xian's face, making him look even more terrifying and terrifying. Bang! One punch. Bang bang. Two punches. Bang bang bang. Three punches. Cruel and ruthless. Fist radiance whistled through the sky. Yi Xian swung his fists and smashed down continuously. Nua's head had already been smashed flat by him. It was impossible to see her original appearance. The shattered bone fragments and blood splattered all over the ground. This kind of extremely cruel killing was even more shocking. Back then you killed Xueji. She was the only disciple of my close friend Lu Bai. Today this punch is for martial niece Xueji. Bang! Yi Xian roared in a deranged manner. His fist penetrated Nua's body, and the spurting blood soaked his entire body. This punch is for the dead celestial court members. Bang! Yi Xian viciously punched out, and directly blasted half of Nua's body into smithereens. This punch is for the humiliation you gave me in the past, and for myself. The fist radiance was like an ancient divine mountain, suppressing the starry sky and shattering heaven and earth. It violently smashed onto Nua's broken body, causing Nua to no longer look human. Kneel! Suddenly, Yi Xian lifted Nua's entire body up. When he stepped out, he broke both of Nua's knees, and directly forced Nua to kneel on the ground. What saint? It's all bullshit. Today this emperor wants you to die without a burial ground. Dominating the starry sky and suppressing all things, Yi Xian roared towards the sky. His body emitted a dark sacred light, and actually caused the three realms to tremble violently. He suddenly raised his right fist, and smashed it towards Nuwa with Tong Tian killing intent. Bang! Blood rained down as the starry skies exploded. Yi Xian's fist was extremely resplendent, and it contained his techniques and Dao. It directly blasted Nuwa into a bloody mist that filled the sky. Heaven and earth were silent, and not a sound could be heard. When Nuwa turned into a bloody mist that filled the sky, Yi Xian stretched out his arms and bathed in the golden rain of blood. His mouth slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. The knot in his heart that had been suppressed for many years had finally been relieved. Dead. And I. Nuwa is dead? I'm impossible, right? Dream. I must be dreaming. Dozens of breaths had passed. People from various orthodoxies were constantly sucking in cold breaths, as they mumbled to themselves. None of them dared to believe what they were seeing. They even believed that they were in a dream. Dead. Nuwa was killed by the Sky Emperor. The celestial court of the 33 layers was in an uproar. The people were cheering in joy. The divine mountain of Buja was rumbling, and the sound of the war drums of the 9 heavens could be heard. At this moment, the 2 sages of the West's expression froze. Yuanshi Tianzuan was gloomy and silent, Huta's eyes were filled with horror, and Tongtian was frowning. The other sages had different expressions, and no one knew what they were thinking. As long as the heavenly Tao exists, the sages will not die. Suddenly, a cold and emotionless voice rang out. A speck of golden light bloomed in the starry skies. The golden sage blood that was originally drifting in all directions turned into a long river, and condensed in the middle of this speck of golden light. A slender figure walked out of the golden light. Wisps of virtuous golden light covered her body, and a merciless heavenly Tao's sacred aura filled the sky. Nuwa. Her silky hair scattered behind her head. Her body was unharmed, and the heavenly Tao's sacred light was rumbling and rising. She stood in the starry skies and looked down at Yi Xian. There was no shame or anger on her face, and there was only coldness and indifference. It's over. The legend of the sages being immortal is true. I'm afraid the Sky Emperor will sigh. The Nether River Patriarch whispered in horror, and let out a long sigh. This made the celestial court's expression change drastically, and an extremely heavy atmosphere grew in everyone's hearts. Yuanshi Tianzuan stood proudly. His expression gradually returned to normal as he snorted and whispered, Heavenly Tao sages are immortal. Even if Yi Xian's physical body is peerless, he can't kill Junior Nuwa. This is an ironclad fact. Amitba. The 2 sages of the West chanted softly and said, Both of you are sages. Why don't we stop here today? Even if we continue fighting, there's no result. Why don't we turn hostility into friendship? Yi Daoyu, you've already avenged your past humiliation in today's battle. Your karma with Nuwa has also been settled. From now on, you'll be the celestial emperor of the 3 realms. I'm sure Nuwa won't say anything, Tongtian advised softly, hoping that Yi Xian would stop. Yi Tiandi, you've already won today's battle. We sages have transcended the mortal world. Why don't we stop here? Huto also advised. Yuanshi Tianzuan whispered, Junior Nuwa, Yi Xian has already achieved the Tao. Although he's not a heavenly Tao sage, he's not inferior to us. Although the karma between the 2 of you is deep, you've already lost today. It's also considered as settling the grudge between the 2 of you. Why don't we just stop here? The sages couldn't be blamed for speaking out. In fact, the logic was very simple. Sages couldn't be killed. The so-called dispute was just for their own face. The sages all understood this logic. For example, during the investiture of the gods' war, Tongtian fought 4 sages alone. In the end, the 4 sages couldn't kill him. They only made Tongtian lose face and retreat. Tongtian had always wanted to find other sages to settle the karma of the investiture of the gods. In fact, he wanted to clear his name and regain his lost face. As for the life and death battle between sages, it didn't exist. It wasn't that they didn't want to kill each other, but that sages couldn't be killed. This was the most important problem. At this moment, Nuwa stood in the starry sky. The aura around her was cold and emotionless. Her eyes were extremely indifferent, but in fact, she was extremely embarrassed and angry. This was because Yi Xian had ruthlessly humiliated her, and even destroyed her body. This had already made her lose face as a sage. However, the few sages had made peace. Nuwa also knew that continuing to fight with Yi Xian was pointless. Yi Xian couldn't kill her, and she couldn't hurt Yi Xian's body. This was simply an endless battle. Furthermore, Yi Xian's combat strength was above hers. Even though she wished she could kill Yi Xian, continuing to fight with Yi Xian would only repeat the previous incident. She would only be asking for humiliation. Alright, since senior brothers and junior sister Hudu have made peace, this sage will stop today. From now on, this sage and Yi Xian will not interfere with each other's business. Nuwa's expression was cold. She flung her sleeves and walked into the distance. Clearly, she didn't have the face to stay here. Phew! At the same time, the people of the celestial court heaved a sigh of relief. This was obviously the best outcome. Their celestial court had already proven himself. He had even destroyed Nuwa's body and regained his dignity. He would be on equal footing with the 7 sages. From now on, the 33 celestial courts would truly unify the three realms. This also made the people of the celestial court extremely gratified. It wasn't that the people of the celestial court didn't want to kill Niwa. It was simply impossible and unrealistic, because Niwa was a heavenly saint. Unless the world collapsed and all living beings perished, no one could kill Niwa. This was the best outcome they could hope for. On the other hand, the quasi-saints of the various orthodoxies sighed in their hearts. It seemed that from now on, there would be another saint in the world. The 33 levels of the heavenly court would truly expand, and from today onwards, Yi Xian would be the leader of the three realms. At this moment, just when everyone thought that the Heavenmender festival would end abruptly and Niwa was about to leave, a calm and cold voice resounded in all directions. It also caused Niwa to stop abruptly. The sages were completely stunned. Niwa, did this sage allow you to leave? Yi Xian stepped into the sky. Black lightning flickered around his body, and he actually blocked Niwa's path. His gaze towards Niwa was even colder and more emotionless. Yi Xian, what do you want? Niwa frowned. Her face was filled with shame and anger. She had already backed down today, but Yi Xian still wanted a mile after taking an inch. How could she endure this? The 6 desires are merciless, and the world is heartless. No one has ever walked out of my hands alive if I, Yi Xian, want to kill them. Not even sages are an exception. Rumble. When Yi Xian's merciless voice reverberated in all directions, the entire starry sky dimmed. An aura that seemed like it could slaughter the heavens, and the earth erupted from Yi Xian's body. Chapter 917. Everyone was shocked into silence. When Yi Xian blocked Niwa's path, everyone was stunned speechless. They could only look at Yi Xian in shock. What? What is Yi Tiandi trying to do? Her Highness Niwa has already retreated, but he's still pushing his luck. Is he trying to kill a sage? A lunatic will always be a lunatic. Even if he has the cultivation of a sage, it doesn't change the fact that he's a lunatic. An uproar broke out as all sorts of discussions were heard. It was obvious that Yi Xian was too ignorant to know when to advance or retreat. Although he had beaten Niwa to the point that she couldn't fight back, a saint couldn't be killed at all. This caused the various orthodoxies and quasi-saints to sneer in their hearts. Above the starry sky, the killing intent was biting cold. Niwa, who was blocked by Yi Xian, looked extremely cold. Her eyes flashed with extreme killing intent, and she looked at Yi Xian with shame and anger. Yi Xian, it's not that I'm afraid of you. Today we've settled our karma, and I've lost my dignity. Are you going to continue humiliating me? Niwa kept a safe distance from Yi Xian, as the heavenly Tao's holy light covered her body. She even scolded him angrily. Obviously, Niwa did not think that Yi Xian could kill her. He had blocked her path only to continue humiliating her. This made Niwa extremely angry. Celestial Emperor, it's better to make enemies than to resolve them. We've done enough today. Why don't we just let it go? The Empyrean fairy consoled from afar. She looked at Yi Xian with a slightly anxious expression. Celestial Emperor, if our dead brothers knew what you've done today, they would be able to rest in peace. Why don't we just bury the hatchet? The Kunping also chimed in. A worthy younger brother, a sage cannot be killed. Since Niwa has already humbled herself, just let her be. The Empress Ziwei secretly transmitted her voice. Everyone from the celestial court stepped forward to persuade him. It was not that they did not want to kill Niwa, but they were very calm. They knew that Niwa could not be killed, so why bother to continue fighting? Unfortunately, Yi Xian turned a deaf ear to the celestial court's persuasion, and did not respond at all. Since he dared to block Niwa's path, he must have his own plans. Halberd, come. Suddenly, Yi Xian let out a cruel roar. Under everyone's horrified gaze, a 3-inch halberd appeared between Yi Xian's eyebrows. The murderous aura of the Tongtian roared out. Rumble! The Tongtian moved the earth and suppressed the past and present. The 3-inch halberd expanded into the heaven-destroying halberd, and landed in Yi Xian's hands. The pitch-black halberd shone with a terrifying cold light. The black light on the tip of the halberd was like an eye that could steal souls. I have a halberd called the heaven-destroying halberd. This halberd came from beyond the 9 heavens and was born in the chaos. It can be said to be the #1 killing weapon in all of history. In the past, the Jade Emperor of the Celestial Court was said to be immortal and indestructible. However, I used this halberd to nail him to death on the southern heavenly gate. I wonder if you Nuwa can escape this calamity. Yi Xian held the halberd in his hands. The Tongtian's black holy light shone down, and the heaven-destroying halberd buzzed in his hands. The murderous aura reverberated in the starry sky. A chaotic divine weapon, so that's how it is. The heavenly sovereign of the primordial beginning whispered in horror. His expression became extremely heavy, while the other saints' eyes were filled with panic. They stared fixedly at the heavenly punishing halberd in Yi Xian's hand, their hearts trembling violently. The heavenly path sages were connected to the heavens and earth. When the heaven-destroying halberd appeared, their connection to the heavens and earth became extremely weak, as if it was cut off by some mysterious force. Yi Xian, don't make a mistake, Nuwa shouted in a low voice. There was a hint of panic in her eyes. She was obviously very wary of the heaven-destroying halberd. The origin of this weapon was too mysterious and too terrifying. If it could really kill her, it would be a great calamity for her. Kill. The starry sky was rioting and murderous aura filled the sky. Yi Xian did not waste any time. His only goal was to kill Nuwa. At this moment, he viciously charged towards Nuwa and thrust his halberd towards Nuwa's forehead. Clearly, he wanted to kill Nuwa with the heaven-destroying halberd, just like how he killed the Jade Emperor in the past. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? After all, Nuwa was a heavenly path sage. She was not an ant that Yi Xian could trample on as he wished. She flew backwards and maintained a safe distance from Yi Xian. Then, she threw out the Khanate spiritual treasure, the red embroidered ball, and engaged in battle with Yi Xian. Clang clang clang. Yi Xian's physical body was unparalleled and could be said to be the best in the 3 realms. Even a saint could not compete with him. He waved the heaven-destroying halberd and released a destructive force that constantly knocked away Nuwa's red embroidered ball. However, Nuwa had learned her lesson this time. She knew that her physical strength was no match for Yi Xian's, so she constantly used the saint force of heaven and earth to unleash saint techniques to kill Yi Xian. The red embroidered ball was even more agile. It carried a mighty force that could shatter the starry sky as it clashed with Yi Xian's heaven-destroying halberd. Whistling sounds filled the starry sky as the world shook. Yi Xian fought with all his might. Stars shattered one after another, and the boundless sea of stars vaporized into smoke. He appeared to be dominating the world, and was determined to kill Nuwa with his heaven-destroying halberd. Unfortunately, Nuwa was not as weak as imagined. She had been completely defeated by Yi Xian previously, because she had been careless, and had given Yi Xian an opportunity to take advantage of her. Now that she had fully unleashed her cultivation, she could not compete with Yi Xian in terms of physical strength. She repeatedly used saint techniques, and was now evenly matched with Yi Xian. Yi Xian, you little dog, you've gone too far. Since you want to continue fighting, I'll fight with you for 3,000 years. I'd like to see what you're capable of, Yi Xian. Nuwa waved her hand and unleashed a saint light technique, sending Yi Xian flying. The terrifying saint force of heaven and earth was too terrifying. Even if Yi Xian took the attack head-on, it was impossible for him to remain unmoved. Die! Suddenly, Yi Xian shuttled between the void and reality, and mysteriously appeared in front of Nuwa. His face was cruel and ferocious, as he slashed his halberd at Nuwa. Buzz! The starry sky disappeared and all techniques disappeared, although the halberd had slashed through Nuwa's body. The strange thing was that Nuwa's body disappeared like a bubble. It was clearly an illusion. If I'd known that you wanted to fight me in close combat, I wouldn't have given you the chance. Nuwa silently appeared thousands of miles away. The heavenly divine light around her was thick and dense. She looked at Yi Xian with a mocking gaze. As the saying goes, a fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. Nuwa would never allow the same thing to happen again. At this moment, she was using all her cultivation to guard against Yi Xian. Yi Xian naturally wouldn't have the chance to kill her again. Moreover, Niwa was extremely wary of the heaven-destroying halberd. This was because the heaven-destroying halberd gave her an extremely uneasy feeling. This feeling meant death. Naturally, she didn't dare to be careless. Yi Xian, give up. Neither of us can do anything to each other. Although you've achieved Tao in a different way, you only have a strong physical body. Your use of saint techniques is too shallow. You can't even touch my clothes. Do you think there'll be a result if we continue to fight? Niwa said coldly, describing the reality before her. Chapter 9:18. At this moment, whether it was the sage to be of various orthodoxies or the sages, all of them could see Yi Xian's weakness. Yes, it was his weakness. Yi Xian was terrifying because of his close combat skills, and had almost no use of sorcery. Niwa, on the other hand, was different. Her use of the sage grand technique had reached the pinnacle, and she could even merge with heaven and earth. This made the two of them evenly matched. Niwa is right. Although the Celestial Emperor's cultivation is terrifying, he is indeed lacking in sorcery. When I fought with him in the past, I found that he had always been fighting in close combat, and rarely used sorcery. His fighting style is almost the same as the Wu tribe. This is indeed his weakness, Dijun said in a low voice, which made the faces of the celestial court extremely grave. Just as Dijun had said, when he fought with Yi Xian in the past, Dijun was known as the most amazing genius of the demon tribe. He was also proficient in all the secret skills of the demon tribe. Even Donghuang Tai could not compare with him in terms of sorcery. Back then, when Dijun was defeated by Yi Xian, it was only because Yi Xian's cultivation was higher than his. In terms of strength, he was already able to crush him, but in terms of techniques, Dijun was still slightly superior. However, the situation now was different. Niwa was not Dijun. She was a true sage who had reached the pinnacle of the sage grand technique, and her cultivation was not much lower than Yi Xian's. Thunder rumbled in all directions, and the starry sky dimmed. Yi Xian stood with his halberd. He did not continue to attack Niwa, but a strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The sage grand technique? Yi Xian murmured. However, when Niwa saw his smile, Niwa frowned and felt a chill in her heart. She felt that something bad was about to happen. Wang! Ripples appeared in the void. Just as everyone's attention was on Yi Xian actually rooted his heaven-destroying halberd in the void. A wisp of chaotic fog quietly entwined around his body, giving off an extremely eerie feeling. Limitless heaven and earth, all laws returned to one. Rumble! The starry sky was extinguished, the great stars were sinking, and the vast sea of stars was overturned. The chaotic fog around Yi Xian held out. This chaotic fog seemed to have a mind of its own, transforming into dark runes that filled Yi Xian's surroundings. The undying immortal scripture is a forbidden technique. If it wasn't for your reminder, I would have forgotten about it. Yi Xian said indifferently. His body glowed. This was a kind of pulsating light. The dark runes flickered and pulsated, and the mysterious sound of chanting could be heard in the void. 18 celestial demons, heaven and earth change, the undying secret technique, to suppress the past and present. Suddenly, Yi Xian formed a seal with both hands, and a hoarse voice came from his mouth. He was chanting the sutra, and the pulsating dark runes flew out, causing the starry sky to undergo an extremely terrifying change. Roar! The celestial demons roared, and the starry sky shook. A total of 18 dark runes flickered in the starry sky, and 18 angry roars that shocked the celestial demons reverberated in the starry sky. Change! Under everyone's stunned gaze, Yi Xian formed a huge black seal with both hands, and directly slammed the seal out. The 18 black runes suddenly disappeared, and actually condensed into 18 terrifying demonic shadows that roared fiercely in the starry sky. 18 celestial demons transformation. Yi Xian roared towards the sky. His expression was cold and merciless. The 1,800,000-meter tall demonic shadows emitted an aura that could destroy the heavens and the earth as they instantly pounced towards Niwa. 18 celestial demons transformation. This was a supreme technique from the forbidden chapter of the undying celestial scripture. Without the cultivation of the three tribulations of the heavenly Tao, it was impossible to use it. At this moment, Yi Xian waved his hand and directly displayed an extremely terrifying power. What is this thing? Yuan Tianzuan roared in horror. His eyes were trembling, because the aura of these 18 demonic shadows was too terrifying. It even contained an aura of death, which made him extremely shocked. The old legends say that there are chaos divine techniques in outer space, but there are also chaos demonic arts. If I'm not wrong, what Yi Xian is using is the legendary chaos demonic arts. Tong Tian said in shock. He stared at the 18 demonic shadows, and there was an indescribable look in his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. Insignificant tricks. Watch me break your evil technique. Niua's body was covered in the heavenly Tao's holy light. Her slender jade-like hands danced in the starry sky, and streams of starry rivers whistled over. The hundreds of stars covered the sky, displaying a saint technique unique to heavenly Tao saints. Sky shifting technique. The starry river rolled back the starry sky, and the huge stars flickered. Niua let out a roar. This was one of her trump cards. Not only did it nurture her cultivation of heavenly Tao saint, it also contained the power of heaven and earth. Roar. The 18 demonic shadows roared wantonly. The starry river and the huge stars attacked. When the two collided, an extremely terrifying explosion was heard. Bang! 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 A terrifying thing happened. The 18 gigantic demonic shadows swelled rapidly, becoming 1,000,000 miles long. As they swung their arms, they smashed the stars one after another. The streams of stars around them were shattered into starlight. Change! The black seal in Yi Xian's hand suddenly changed. The 18 phantoms of the gods and devils actually fused into one and transformed into a 12th grade black lotus platform. That terrifying black holy light bloomed, even more terrifyingly on the black lotus. World annihilation demonic lotus? How can you have demon ancestor Luo Ho's world annihilation demonic lotus? Such a scene made Niua's face turn pale. She unconsciously retreated. The 18 demonic shadows had already shocked her. At this moment, Yi Xian actually condensed the world annihilation demonic lotus. This simply made Niua extremely shocked. It was no wonder that Niua reacted this way. One should know that the world annihilation demonic lotus was too terrifying. It was also Luo Ho's lifelong treasure. With this lotus in hand, even saints would be wary. And the most important problem was that when Tao ancestor Hong Jun merged with the Tao in the past, he had said that demon ancestor Luo Ho was one of the chaotic demonic gods. He was not restricted by heaven and earth. This world annihilation demonic lotus could even harm the heavenly Tao saint's saint heart. If there was anyone in the heaven, earth, and mortal realms that could make saints wary, then Luo Ho would definitely be one of them. This was because Luo Ho achieved Tao in another way. His cultivation was not weaker than a saint's. Unfortunately, at the beginning of the creation of the world, although the fiend ancestor Rahu had achieved the Tao in another way, he had been severely injured by Tao ancestor Hongjun and was on the verge of death. His Tao had fallen greatly. The 4 immortal vanquishing swords and the immortal vanquishing formation in the hands of the Grand Master of Heaven were Raha's. However, they had been snatched away by Hongjun back then and were given to the Grand Master of Heaven. Demon ancestor Luo Ho, one of the 3,000 chaotic demonic gods, was a figure of the same generation as Tao ancestor Hongjun. At this moment, Yi Xian condensed the world annihilation demonic lotus. How could this not make Niua extremely shocked? No, this is not the world annihilation demonic lotus. This is just something condensed from the chaotic demonic art. Suddenly, the heavenly sovereign of primordial beginning coldly spoke, revealing the great technique that Yi Xian was currently using. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.